Hi, everybody. We are live again at 0500 here in San Francisco for another watch party. Our show number 756 here, the Sailing Illustrated regular Tuesday and Friday shows, plus these watch parties. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Tom Eamon, of course. We're in Studio B. No Julia today. She's upstairs in the Commodore's suite, watching, no doubt, on YouTube or Facebook. We've got our regular Zoomers in the house, standing by in the gallery, Emmett and Smith and Sweeney and Worley. In our gallery view, as I will go to Graham Sweeney, our number one Zoomer, or at least the longest term Zoomer. Graham, good morning to you, or good afternoon to you in Scotland. Give us a preview of what you think is going to happen today.
What I said the other day, but that went wrong. I think we're just going to put it all to bed today and then move on. But maybe I've just put the knockers on it again. Who knows?
Well, did you hear what was going on with the youth this morning?
I saw that they'd had a bit of a technical issues with two of the teams, which I thought was a bit, well. You know, this should be running now. This is a new sport, I know, but this should be running like smooth, and they should be getting out there and pressing the right buttons and going sailing, if that's sailing.
Gordon Smith, what are you thinking this morning?
Yeah, oddly for me, well, let's focus on the positive. I thought the racing was great sailing racing. How do I feel about boats and technical issues? Well, the teams own the boats, but I'm thinking the suppliers should be giving very good backup, and there should be some accommodation, which there is in, for example, one maker motor racing. There's usually some form of support, and I thought that is missing from the procedure.
You meaning the youth this morning? Because Gridoni, the Italian, Marco Gridoni, won both races.
It was great.
So bravo.
He sailed like a dream.
The guy is, and he's the only one who's had big time experience, because he was the B helm in Jeddah with Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. We've got TV here. And welcome to Studio B. We've got TV coming live on ESPN Plus. This is a watch party. Again, I'm here alone. Julia's upstairs, so we won't have the pleasure of her company today. But we do have the rest of our Zoomers, thankfully. Let's go to Ed Worley down in SoCal. Ed?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning to you, sir. You're up bright and early. It's 05:03 for you.
Yes, it's bright and early.
Did you watch any of the, a little less headspace for you, if you would, Ed, please? Did you watch the youth today?
I watched some of it. It was pretty late here overnight. I tried to catch up on some of the posts and Facebook and stuff this morning, and look, they had some really good wind and a lot of splashdowns and a couple spin outs when they're called the pirouettes. So
pirouettes.
That's what they're calling it. Nose dive is called a pirouette.
A pirouette. Well, that's very balletic. Is that a word, John Emmett? Is balletic? What pirouette?
A pirouette.
John Emmett, good morning to you, or good afternoon to you, in where it's 13:04 for you in presumably Weymouth today.
Yeah, I'm sat in my front room in Weymouth, and good morning, afternoon, evening, where everyone's watching. I mean, I think it adds to the excitement when anything can happen. And I think today, for most teams, will just be about loss minimization, because one big mistake could be very costly. And I'm really looking forward to the racing. And I do agree with Graham. I think today will probably end the semis.
Well, there's the doc out for American Magic and for the Italians. They're playing on ESPN Plus. This is pre-recorded, of course, as you know, John. And that's always fun to watch. It's even more fun to be there if you're part of a team. There's the huge throng. We talked yesterday on our regular show at 1300 about what a great turnout the Italians have there in Barcelona supporting their team. John, set the stage for us today. Who's going to win? How many races? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, I think it's highly likely just to be one race apiece. So if we look at the GBR Swiss scenario, I think the GBR boat has just been superior around the racetrack. And obviously we had a difficult race in marginal foiling conditions. And that shows one big mistake. You're 2-3 kilometres behind, but it's still only one big mistake. I think, or at least I'd hope, that Magic and LRPP will be far closer. Having said that, that old cliche about time in the boat, I don't think American Magic have had enough time in the boat with the two helms they have now because of the very unfortunate absence of Goody. So I think the Italians will cruise it today.
Okay, well, we are on match point in both of these semifinals. We are on day 4 of the Louis Vuitton Cup semifinals. We've got the Americans going against the Italians, and then we've got the Brits going against the Swiss, and the first match is in fact the Brits against the Swiss, both on 4-1. Both of these underdog teams are what we would now think of probably as the underdog teams. As John and Graham both said, they think it's going to end up today, wrap up today. We'll see. Certainly, I think we'd all like to see it continue on. Maybe the Brits on here of the Zoomers would not like to see that. They'd like to see the Brits go through and beat the Swiss down, put that semi to bed. We got an easterly breeze, Graham Sweeney, and it's really bumpy. In fact, I just had a report from one of our FOSI out on the water saying it's too windy and too bumpy. It's 10 knots of breeze, give or take, but it's too bumpy to fill one's drink glass completely full. You talk about first world problems, Graham Sweeney.
Well, if that's a problem, shouldn't be a problem on the water for the boys, I think. They'll be out there. I think the boat was designed for a bit of chop. It looks like it needs a bit of chop to go well. What do I know? Anyway, I mean, just
easterly. So they're at the west end of the Mediterranean. And with the wind blowing overnight and actually yesterday with that long fetch, it's pretty bumpy, pretty lumpy, more than a meter C. But it looks like we have a starting sequence in good shape underway. In 2 minutes, 45 seconds, this first match between the Brits, as we said, and the Swiss. Alinghi Red Bull Racing. It's 4-1 in favor of the Brits in this first to win 5-race series. Gordon Smith, who's going to win?
Ineos. I like innovators, and that's why. And also, Ineos have been ramping it up. So you've got to believe in Ineos in this race and in this wind.
Okay, Ed Worley, who's going to win?
Ineos.
Okay, here comes the entry. Again, it's a watch party, so you got to put up with my profile in the shot. I can go live to the racing, but I don't want to get a copyright strike here from ESPN Plus. So we're watching it here live in Studio B on the big screen, as all of you are bringing your own video, BYOV, of the racing as the Brits have crossed in on port tack and just ahead of the Swiss. Plenty of breeze. As you can see, a little more lump on the surface of the water than we've seen perhaps in the past. Wow, you can really see the lump there. And again, it's an easterly breeze. I think it's the first time we've had an easterly breeze since maybe one of the preliminary races. Is that right? John Emmett, do you remember? Have we had an easterly breeze in your time that you've been on here watching?
I must admit, I'm not sure. I think the key thing with the lump is it makes the manoeuvres more difficult. So you probably never want to go underneath 21 knots or in danger zone. And I'd expect to see more two-foil manoeuvres. Better safe than sorry. But yeah, I mean, we've got under a minute to start time, and hopefully it's going to be a good match race rather than one boat just sailing away.
Well, exactly. Hope for some good racing. Unfortunately, they did not have very good racing in the youth. They got 2 more matches in earlier today in Barcelona. I think they tried to start as early as 0900. There was no TV that I saw. Apparently there was some TV, but I couldn't even find a replay. Here we go. 30 seconds, the Swiss leading back. Brits, it looks like they're just trying to stay well and truly clear of the Swiss, not risk any penalties or any collisions or anything else untoward. Brits starting wide right, way up on their hip. The breeze should go to the right today, I'm told by the weather prognosticators. The breeze should go right, which means the right side of the track should be favored, at least in terms of shifts, a persistent gradual shift to the right. As they're off, the Swiss heading to leeward, and the Brits well gauged off up to windward. Looked like the line was a bit port favored as the Swiss are leading off the line. Graham Sweeney, do we have your pillow in view today? Graham's still
Lights
there?
on, yep, it's here.
There it is. I guess everyone is picking the Brits to win today. Here comes the first tack. This will be close. The Brits wisely tacking ahead and to leeward. Now will go into high mode and on port tack and try to squeeze up in front of the Swiss. Uh-oh. A Fozy flop there. Perhaps a touchdown by the Swiss. You can see them letting the main way out, dropping the Traveler. Oh, they're back up now. Meanwhile, Ineos, who had a cleaner tack, have shot out front in what we might call the Jimmy Spithill start. Jimmy, of course, the A driver, A helm on Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, likes to start wide right up on the hip of the opponent, and then attack ahead and to leeward, and then gain dominance on the long port board, as some of you would say, the long port tack over to the upwind right boundary, which is what we're seeing here. And the Brits look like 2 clicks higher, sailing on port tack higher by quite a bit. And maybe the Swiss are in now the disturbed air, that vortex of dirty air that comes off the rig of the lead boat, and away they tack for clear air. That is the Swiss. Gordon, do you like what you're seeing so far?
I do. I think the side-by-side performance off the start shows that something's working in Ineos, and I think Alinghi, there's just something not right with the boat. I mean, I have to put it down to the rig. I wonder what they spent the time and money on, because they don't seem to produce anything different.
Yeah, and of course they had 2 rig failures. These are supposedly one design with minimum scantlings, if you might, in the old word, specifications. And they have lost not 1 but 2 different rigs on the Swiss boat, and fairly. The first one was some months ago, I guess you would say, and then the second one was just after it was up for 20 minutes, and that one came down, the new replacement rig, and that was just before the preliminary regatta. As we see the Brits now way ahead, crossing ahead on starboard tack with a 100-meter lead up leg 1 of 6. John Emmett, what have you seen so far?
I mean, it sounds like the same thing, but it's very different. And I hope that the Brits are fast as opposed to the Swiss being slow. And I guess we will only see that when we go through to the finals. But yeah, I think Ineos is sailing absolutely textbook. And yeah, I just hope that it's that Ineos is sailing fast, so to speak. I still think today is a pretty difficult day in the office with the lump. So every learning they can have is really useful at this stage.
Ed Worley, do you think they made a mistake? That is, Ineos Britannia, the GBR team, made a mistake by choosing the 4th place team, the Swiss, going into the semifinals? Should have they chosen one of the other 2 teams?
No, I think they made the right choice. The reason they made the right choice is that they have more time now to develop what they got to do and perfect their tactics and try out a bunch of different settings, because these boats are so complicated. So this gives them actually more run-up time, because they've already know sort of what's going on with Luna Rossa and American Magic. And this gives them more run-up time to really develop what they want to do and shoot for the goals they already know for the metrics they have with Luna Rossa and American Magic. So I think they did the right thing.
See if you can get a little less headspace there on your shot, please, Ed Worley,
Okay.
and stabilize your camera. I don't know if you're on your iPad again today, but it was a little bouncy there, like the Sea State in Barcelona. But it closed right up there coming into the gate. Maybe there was a bit more pressure on the upwind right, as we've seen in the past. And the Swiss closing up within 100 meters, 86, 87 meters now, as they come downhill on leg 2. And the Brits luffing up to try to hold the Swiss off. We may have a lead change here. The Swiss getting down across their bow. And I'd call that a lead change. They've crossed ahead. And the Brits struggling here in the early go. And the Swiss have taken the lead. Look at how high the Brits are sailing relative to the Swiss, who are sailing a lower angle, a lower VMG down the track. What do you think here, Graham Sweeney? What's going on?
Well, it's doesn't look too good, does it? I mean, this lump doesn't seem to be doing us much favours. I mean, on the left-hand side going down, it looked as if it was going light there, and I think we sailed into a hole, which pulled us back a bit. And I think that side is actually killing the game at the moment. I think everyone needs to go across to the right-hand side and sail that edge.
The right hand, you mean the upwind right? Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? Okay. We generally, and you all have been good about that, we generally say, when we say right, we mean the upwind right, even if they're going downwind right now. They were headed over toward the upwind right. Now Ineos have jibed away toward the upwind left. Of course, the obverse, the downwind right. So we try not to confuse our non-sailing viewers. We see Susie Helm on again today. Susie, welcome to you. If you go live with your video and want to talk, otherwise just...
I'll just say good morning.
Good morning to you. Thanks for joining in there.
Thank you. I enjoy it.
Well, we appreciate your coming on. Where are you, Susie?
I am in Westchester, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia.
Well, are you part of the big sailing Helm family from Long Island?
Yes.
All right,
Sally was my sister.
The late, great Sally Helm, who
Yes,
was a
thank you.
dear friend of mine for many, many years and an amazing contributor to our sport.
Yes.
Both amateur, both the non-commercial side of the sport as well as the commercial side. We miss her dearly. And
Thank you. We do too.
Thank you for coming on.
Yep. So we've been following the Cup for years. And my nephew, Henry, actually was involved with the shore team of American Magic up in Portsmouth.
Nice.
So I'm back here outside of Philadelphia cheering you on.
Well, are you surprised by this huge lead that the Swiss have built on leg 2?
I think it's fun. I mean, go get them. I do believe that Ineos is going to take it in the end of this series, but it's nice to see a match race.
Graham Sweeney in Shetland in the UK. What is going on with your team, the Brits?
I was just about to ask you the same thing. It seems as though we've got off the rollers, haven't we? We're slowing down a little bit. It doesn't look like the boat it was two races ago.
I mean, now it's almost a kilometer lead, and you're right, they're sailing higher and slower. It looks like John Emmett, Coach Emmett, the esteemed Olympic coach and keen observer of all things yacht racing. What the hell is going on here, John?
I mean, I think the big thing was up near the top of the mark that Ineos sailed into a big lull, and anyone who sails high-performance boats knows that just pressure is king. That's why you see such huge gauge coming.
But John, excuse me, let me go back. Why do you see a 3-knot difference all the way down this track between the Swiss and the Brits? What's going on? I mean, that wasn't just at the initial stages of this leg.
I mean, I'm trying to look closely to see if there's any obvious difference in setup of the boats, but I mean, half a knot of wind speed, everything else being equal, can make a huge difference to boat speed. I mean, just remember in 7 knots, they're doing 30 knots. But yeah, I'm just trying to have a look at the boats and see, what's going on. I think Ineos really opened the door for them at the top to be rolled. And I think maybe they took it a little bit lightly. But yeah, I mean, it's great to have some racing. I don't think I'll call it match racing.
There was a protest by the Swiss, a windward lured protest. Some would argue
interfering another boat.
Yeah, some would argue, well, that was from the Swiss against the Brits. Some would argue that the Brits would protest the Swiss for interfering with a boat on another leg. We'll see what comes from the umpires. But we did not see a protest from the Brits, which is what I was expecting, John. They were on opposite legs. The Swiss didn't tack at the boundary. They tacked what appeared to me to be earlier in order to go over there and mess with. There's the wind speed, 10 knots there down on the bottom. Live wind, so it is lumpier. It's out of the east for the first time, at least during the semifinals, and the first time I think even during the rounds robin that we've had a good easterly. We may have had kind of a zephyr, one of those light days when we didn't race. It may have blown out of the east for a while. Graham Sweeney, will you talk? Let's go to Gordon Smith and see what Gordon thinks is going on with this huge lead. The Swiss ahead of the Brits up leg 3.
Well, of course, I have no idea unless I was on the boat. I go back to my usual perspective that Ineos, I believe, my view is that it's designed for a slightly higher wind range, but it has been performing quite well in 10 knots.
Exactly.
So, have Alingi managed to adjust their rig? Have Ineos got something stuck on the rudder? I mean, it is a bit weird. I've been trying to see if the jib sizes, if there's a difference, but they look similar. I could be wrong. They look similar. It is a little peculiar. It's like an adjustment. It's like there's a slight difference in the trim. Is what I'm thinking, but I really don't know.
Let me go to their coach.
To
Pietro.
really make the boat handling work in these waves. The wind is also should be keep dropping, and it's the
wind is supposed to keep dropping. Yes, that's the weather forecast I've heard as well. Thank you for that, Gordon. But a half a kilometer, almost 500-meter lead here. The Swiss maintaining. The Brits again looking like they're sailing a little lower than. Maybe they are not set up as well in the lump as are the Swiss. Now they're more than 500 meters ahead again. Let's see what the relative speeds are.
The wind keeps dropping, and in wavy condition, being powerful on the sails is the right choice. Let's see. Yeah, it's working well.
See how low the Brits are sailing? It looks to me like they're lower and the Swiss are higher relative to the track anyway. The rum line, meaning the up and down kind of vertical. From the bottom gate to the top gate. They're on leg 3, and the Swiss are coming into the top gate with a big lead. So they may be staying alive after all. When all of our, including mine, I would have predicted the Brits would have been one and done. I see Richard Gladwell is on here. He watches lots of different feeds. He's sitting in Auckland in his fancy office there for sail-world.com and feeding us info, as are people out on the track. Heidi Purcell, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington is back there in Barcelona, she having been in Newport over the weekend for the Resolute Cup. And here they go downhill, at least the Swiss, as the Brits coming into the top gate. Yeah, it was sad. The Americans this morning in the youth, whatever group that is the America's Cup teams have 6 entries. The French again had 2 DNSs. Apparently they had problems with one of their hydraulic pumps. And the Americans also had a DSQ and a DNS in the youth racing this morning, wherein Marco Gradoni, the Italian helm, celebrated Italian helm. I think he's 3-time Optimus World Champion, and Marco Gradoni won both of those youth races this morning. Those of you who said, oh yeah, we got great racing in the youth and this is going to be highly competitive, and gave me hell yesterday before and after. I had a couple of nasty grams after yesterday's show, and I said, well, I really didn't have time to watch. I was watching out of one eye on this screen while I was preparing the show, yesterday's 1300 show. Well, I won't say I rest my case, but the Italians up now 3 first and a second are way ahead of the rest of the pack in that group. I think they're Group B. Anybody remember what group that is, if it's A or B? A is the non-America's Cup, those 6 teams that are not connected to America's Cup teams. And Group something else are the 6 teams connected to these teams.
Group A.
Group A is the non or the America's
No,
Cup?
Group A was what was sailing yesterday and today.
Okay, so that's the Group A teams connected to the America's Cup. Thanks, Gordon. Meanwhile, while we were gasbagging there, Graham Sweeney, your beloved British team has dropped to over a kilometer behind.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it, Tom? They're definitely off the pace. I can't see what's going on. I tried to look at the rudder a minute ago. I'm not sure whether it was wobbling or what, but maybe it's not. It's just being manoeuvred. But
well, that's a good point. You know, we have seen, it has been raining. It was a little rainy overnight, apparently, and we know from past experience, at least in Valencia. I didn't see it in the '92 Olympics when we were there a long time ago. But we know that during the Valencia America's Cup experience, after a rain, you had stuff washing down out of the hills and the creeks and the little rivers and into the race area. And maybe some detritus, maybe some debris, as you Brits would say, debris, we Americans would say. Ed Worley, do you think that's what's happened to the Brits? They've caught something on their rudder, or I guess it'd be their rudder. They'd see if it were on the foils.
I don't know. I think they're having some kind of technical issues with the boat. They seem to be not flying as high, but it's hard to know because the data on the screen here, they're not showing a lot of data. At one point, both boats had the same VMG, so they were doing good as the VMG goes, but there's something going on. I don't know what it is, but
I wonder if Richard Gladwell, who's dialing into things, other sources in Barcelona, is on here. He's not going to come on the Zoom, I don't think, with you Zoomers. Again, Susie Helm, welcome to you. Delighted to have you on here, if only with audio. Any others want to come on, but excuse me, want to come on? We do have our Zoom facility up again today. Meeting ID 267-220-6570. 1851 is the passcode. Please wait to be invited in by your ringmaster here in San Francisco. And then speak in a quick soundbite. Give us 20, 30 seconds of your view. But the Swiss headed upwind on leg 5 of 6. So the second to last leg as the Brits go through the gate. They caught up a little bit in the latter stages of that downwind leg 4.
Shortening the leg to 0.9 nautical miles.
Okay, they're shortening the downwind leg 6 to 0.9 nautical miles as the wind is dropping. The race committee communication there to the teams. The Swiss still over half a kilometer in the lead, and I would say all of our eyebrows are a bit... I don't know about the rest of you, but my eyebrows certainly have been raised by this. None of us were expecting this. John Emmett, any fresh thinking here for us?
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's a very good chance that Ineos was optimized for slightly windy conditions. If they thought it was going to be averaging 12 knots and it averages 9, well, you know, that's a big difference. And I don't think there's anything more to it than that.
John, have you had a look at the jib sizes on these two boats?
I mean, there's a lot of differences in the setup, and to be honest, it's quite hard to tell from YouTube. But if you look, the delta on average is just gradually extended, which indicates a boat speed issue. And the way they're moding the boat to keep it flying, I just think they were expecting a little bit more breeze. Or maybe when it's lumpier, you need to set up as if there was less breeze. That's what you do in most Olympic class dinghies. In that sort of choppy sea state, you just set the boat up for a bit more power for any given wind range. So I think it's a learning experience, and yeah, it's great. We get to watch one more race.
Well, it appears that we're going to get another race today. In fact, they're supposed to sail 4 races today, 2 in each of the semi-final pairs, as the Swiss extend to nearly 700 meters. It's been a bit of a concertina, as you Brits would say, an accordion effect. What? Ineos through the... What did Ineos just do? Or was that television camera weirdness? Well, in any event, the Swiss are closing in on the top gate with a comfortable lead, looking good in the lump. Go ahead, John.
No, I think the Swiss are on track for the Windward Gate. I mean, I must admit, it's very hard to produce these things, but I would love to see more overhead shots and less close-ups of the back of a boat with a traveller going in and out.
Yeah, I totally agree, as you know, and I wish they would put PIP, picture-in-picture, which is, of course, what we do. Here's PIP with me gas bagging, and a shot with John and the zoomers that we use side by side with the live feed. And here's another 2 PIPs in this shot, so we can watch the live feed and John. What do you think, John? You got another comment here?
No, I was just saying I was keen to watch, but yeah, no, I think it's just a boat speed issue, and we've seen that Ineos, when it's correctly set up, is fast, and hopefully they'll correct that for the next race. I think probably the breeze died off quicker than they were expected when they did their rig setup. But as I say, it's good for the viewers. We get more racing. It's probably good for the team that they get more learning. But I completely support the idea of first place choosing fourth to give them the best chance.
What do you think? What do you think of this, Gordon Smith?
Yeah, it's a bit ugly, isn't it? I mean, I noted that the GBR actually clawed back.
No, but hang on, Gordon. Tell us. We got the Brits off the foils. Talk to that. Talk to the video.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's ugly. I'm the last downwind they took up 600 meters, so we would have had a race if they hadn't taken a bath, and now it's looking a bit ugly.
I like that, taking a bath. They're back up on the foils. What do you think happened there? What at that gate, Graham Sweeney? What do you think happened at the Brit? Here's a replay of it now, of the Brits coming off their foils and the tack into the gate.
I don't think there's enough breeze for them, and I think there's a heck of a lot of slop, and I think that's just killing them. I mean, I think they're just like John Emmett says, the boat is not molded for this kind of light air. They're expecting maybe 2 to 3 knots more, and this is just killing them.
It looks to me like the jibs, Ed Worley, I don't know if you've been able to tell or Ed's also checking all his sources on the various social media and otherwise, official media, as the Swiss are going to win this by heaps, by almost a kilometer. They've got a pretty big jib up. I'm not sure that's a number 1. I think it's a 1.5 or a 2 on the Swiss, meaning the hoist on the jib, how high up the rig it goes. And I think the jibs are about the same size. Ed Worley, could you tell?
People are commenting they're about the same size. They look the same size to me. I wonder if they have different size mains up for the weather.
Or deeper. One boat may have a deeper main. John Emmett, why would you have a deeper main in a lumpier day?
They certainly did. They just hung on enough.
I mean, they're just trying to set up for optimum power. I mean, a good friend of mine, Coach Adam Bowers, he talks about these 20 units. And the idea is to be perfectly powered, so you're not overpowered or not underpowered. I mean, for me, race 1 of the Youth AC40 was quite exciting because they were all massively overpowered on the wrong jibs and just struggling to get around the course. But maybe it was a little bit too exciting if you're on the boat yourself.
But a deeper main to power through the lump, right? You would have a little bit deeper main.
Yes, but there's so many more variables than just the jib size and the setup, and there's things which, it's very hard to see from. I mean, you can win every race on the sofa quite easily, but I think it'll be a bit of an eye opener for Ineos, and because of the way the match works, they should have plenty of time to change their moding.
John, it wouldn't be any fun if we didn't have people on the sofa commenting and trying to figure out what the hell's. That's why people tune into us instead of watching it with the, I won't call them croutonic commentators, a couple, 3 of them are good. on the world feed. But there we go, a minute 23, the Delta, and to the surprise of all of us, we've got a win, a second win, second in a row by the Swiss. And you can see the two red dots there on the screen. Losses, wins. And from the start, it looked like the Brits were going to win this race. They were wide right, went over to the left boundary, tacked ahead into leeward, and were sailing higher and faster, it looked like, than the Swiss. But then on the downwind leg, it all changed. And the Swiss going a lot faster than the Brits. Just sailed right past them and went out to at the most, a kilometer lead. Much to the astonishment of all of us. Okay, gang, now we got the next race coming up with Alinghi having won this one, and the Italians up 4-1 against the Americans. What do you expect, Ed Worley, in this next match? Is this indicative of maybe something we'll see in the next match, Ed?
Well, I'm hoping American Magic has the right setup going up so they can compete. It would be nice to see if they showed the boats changing jibs or something in between conditions right here with the Luna Rossa or American Magic. You know, that's the challenge, is you can't change sails. You can't change your jibs. You're stuck. When you make the sail choice, you're stuck.
Well, you make the sail choice before you go afloat. I mean, as far as the mainsail.
Yeah, exactly.
But the jib, I mean, you're able to change your jib between races, and there is
between races, yeah.
They're going to be jazzed in that team. This is, I think, Ed, get your headspace. See if you can match me here in the two-shot. Bring yourself a little tighter and reduce your headspace. We like the eyes at about the 2/3 up the shot.
Okay.
And thank you for that. And Sally Helm, the late great Sally Helm, Susie Helm, her sister here in Philadelphia. Yes. Susie, what do you think after this race? This astonishing race.
I think that it just shows it's possible for American Magic to maybe be a little bit more competitive next race. The conditions really do contribute to a lot of it. But like I said before, I think Ineos is going to come and take this series, and I just don't know about the next one.
Let's listen, Susie, to Ben Ainsley, Sir Ben.
Sounds good.
Just did a really nice job of hooking up the shifts and the pressure, and good performance. So yeah, bit of a struggle for us, but we'll regroup and have a go at the next one.
Oh, Benny, it's Glenn. That little skinny rudder, mate. It's easy to stitch up your fellow helmsman there. Just that first jibe, really, the defining moment in the race, mate. It looked pretty loose.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's tough in these conditions. Quite a lot of swell out here. But, you know, that's all the nuances of sailing these boats, and just got to figure out how we can do a better job, and look forward to the next race.
Okay, good on you, mate. See you then, Ben.
Thanks.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe, guys and gals, maybe it's just a matter of rudder size, and the Brits' very slender, skinny rudder is not as well suited for these conditions as they're struggling through the maneuvers. What do you think, Gordon Smith?
I think he's provided that as a talking point. Ben didn't really jump on it. I'm not sure I saw a lot of skidding rudder action. I'm with John. I think it's more likely to be a more foundational configuration set up. I don't think it was anything to do with the rudder myself. I didn't see that.
Okay, well, it's interesting that Glenn Ashby commented on that, and Ben didn't push back, so I don't know what that means. But here's a video package now they're airing. We must be in a delay. There's Tom Slingsby, the A-helm on New York Yacht Club's American Magic, who, of course, is an Aussie, having moved to the States, and they're looking back at the America's Cup history with Aussies involved, starting in 1983 when Australian John Bertrand and co. took the cup. Yeah, go ahead, Ed. Or sorry, Graham. Sorry, I need more coffee. Gordon, go ahead, please.
Well, actually, I was interested to hear from John about, in these weather conditions and with the chop, Is that if we believe the stories of American Magic cyclors and energy use trimming the sails, is this chop going to have an adverse effect on American Magic's configuration?
Are you okay, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah,
John?
I mean, absolutely. So I think that the key thing is the more difficult a condition is to race in, regardless of what sailing boat you're racing, then the easier you can make it for yourself, the better. We saw it in the Olympics with the kite surfing. You know, those people who are able to take more power. It was a race winning strategy for the men. I just think it's more about Goody being off the boat for AM, I'm sorry to say. And I will bow definitely to Glenn Aspey. He has got an amazing CV with these type of boats. I suspect they just need to sail the boat as if there was less wind. So, in other words, doing bigger turns on all the maneuvers and just playing it slightly safe. It looks like Ineos has been more optimized in recent days for the upwind sailing, and certainly off the start, you know, everything was going well. And these are just incredibly tricky races to sail in, especially if it drops down to around 8 knots.
Okay, well, we're getting ready, we hope, for a match between the Americans and the Italians. They're doing this package featuring Tom Slingsby, who is Australian and an Olympic medal. How many medals did he win, John?
Slingsby?
Yeah.
So he won 2012. So Goodison won 2008 in the laser and predominantly light winds in Beijing. And yeah, Tommy had a pretty tough time. And then the verse was 2 in 2012 with Goody being injured. And Tommy absolutely dominating the event. And you had that famous match racing with the Cypriot for silver, and you had a repeat of that in 2024 as well with a match race for the gold silver. But I mean, all these guys are superb moth sailors, and I think it's a bit hard that everyone just focuses on the helm, whereas there's 4 people on the boat who all make a huge difference, and there's 4 cyclors who could limit the boat if they're not putting the wattage. I saw 1,000 watts at one point the other day. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we got a match coming. Thanks for that, John. We got a match coming up now between the Italians being featured here now. Francesco Bruni and Jimmy Spithill, another Australian who's been living in San Diego. He's perhaps considered an American as much as Australian by now. And Jimmy, who's been doing the Cup since 2000, when I first met him, when he was sailing for Sid Fisher in young Australia. And then you got the American Magic team coming up with, as John mentioned, Lucas Calabrese on the helm, filling in for Paul Goodison for Goody, the Brit, who had been the B helm until he was injured a couple Saturdays ago. They were taking the mainsail down on another similarly lumpy day after racing, taking the main down, and Goody stepped into a cockpit. And I don't think it was one of the cockpits that we think of, the whack-a-mole cockpits, as Graham Sweeney calls them, but I think it was it was a service hatch. The boat had already been opened up as they were getting the main, and it's coming down. They're trying to keep it from going in the water, and it's kind of an all-hands-on-deck procedure. And apparently Goody stepped back into one of those cockpits and went down quite a distance and cracked or broke 5 ribs, and he's been out since. 2 minutes 44 now to this next start. Quickly around the horn, Ed Worley, who's going to win this one and why?
My hopes with American Magic. I think they have some momentum going, and I think they have a good positive attitude, and I think they can win.
Hopes, or is this your brain or your heart speaking?
It's always with my heart. I love the America's Cup too much. We have to get back into it. We have to challenge for it and bring it home.
Well, here come the Italians from the port end, looking upwind on port tack. And they get to go in at the 10-second mark, 2:10. The boat coming in from the port side always gets to go in early. Here come the Americans from the starboard end. Gordon, quickly.
I was wrong in the last match.
You're still in shock.
If AM doesn't flog its cyclors to death, I think there's every opportunity of a win.
Okay. John?
I stick with Luna Rossa on the balance of things. Their win runways today, I think, is just important to gap off on the start and protect the right and keep the boat handling safe as houses.
Under a minute and a half to go now to the start. Both boats headed to the right side of the start box. Graham Sweeney, who's your choice in this one?
I'm afraid I'm going for the underdog today. I think the Americans have got to win, but let's just let them have a day. Come on, let them race.
Okay, Susie, do you care to weigh in on this? Susie may be fixing herself some breakfast at 8:45 in Philadelphia. We'll get back to her as we're under a minute now to the start. And here come once again the Italians. Jimmy Spidhill up. He likes to trail in on these match race starts to windward and slightly astern. Is he going to go for the hook? No, there's not enough time here. The Americans are going to start ahead and to leeward, but they're trying to minimize that gap. Now they'll both bear away. And I don't think the Italians are going to like that starting position. They're going to be getting gassed in this light air and lump, this easterly breeze. And I think the vortex of disturbed air coming off now the sails of American Magic as they sail down across the Italians is going to be slowing them down. And you can see that happening now as the Americans will win this start. And they have to tack for clear air on the Italian boat. A must win, as you heard Steve McIvor, the Kiwi host commentator. The Americans tack quickly to cover and to get over there, I guess, to the upwind right, where maybe again either we're expecting more pressure, perhaps. I'm not sure about that. But we are expecting the breeze to gradually shift to the right, which would favor the boat on the right. Uh-oh, the Americans a little slow out of that tack, so much so that we've got a GPS change of lead. In fact, the Americans are going really slow. And the Italians nicely powered up. And it looks like they've taken the lead. We'll see what happens when they tack. If they cross ahead. Looks to me, guys, like there is a big difference across the track in pressure as we clearly have a big lead change. I mean, not only a lead change, but going from astern to ahead by 150 meters, the Italians now in the lead. John Emmett, do you think it's as patchy and puffy out there on the track as I think?
Mean, you can't see the whole topography, but there always seems to be that wind pocket there. So there's an area of pressure, maybe a third the way up the course on the right-hand side, give or take. And that's why it's important to gap off and be the right-hand-most boat at start time. And I think the lighter the wind, the bigger the difference 2 knots in wind speed makes. And if you look, the Italians have positioned themselves incredibly well. So you wouldn't see American Magic coming back from here unless Italy makes a big mistake. But yeah, it's patchy. It is patchy.
It's patchy. I just cut to that shot to try to show the Cap Gemini, that overlay of the wind strength where it's a little greener. That's more breeze. And then just as I cut to it, they took it away. We see it on the big screen here on the real-time feed. No, Cap Gemini there on the boundary advertising. We see them there, but we don't see their... Well, it's really frustrating for those of us who are... There you can see it. And it looks like there's a puff here, and they've just come through that puff, which is what I was cutting to see. So the Italians now 200 meters in the lead. The Americans tack away to find something different over on the upwind right as this must-win race. They're down 4-1 in this semifinal. And we saw the Swiss being a lot quicker on the downwind leg. Maybe those of you cheering for the USA will see them quicker on leg 2 as well. One can only hope. Graham Sweeney, are you surprised by this?
Yeah, I was just looking at the wave action on the grid files, and it was looking as though the waves are facing directly towards a harbour arm. So you'll be going to get some reflective wave back off of that harbour arm, which is classic Barcelona. And that'll be making a very confused sea.
Indeed, that's what we've been talking about all along since this was named as the venue. And of course, those of us who were there in '92 in the Olympics will recall exactly that. The reflection off the breakwater back out onto the track made for a very, very confused sea. Here come the Italians into the top gate, only going 5 knots. Oh, that's the true wind speed. They put the true wind speed up the top of the mast with the country flag. And they are headed down the upwind right or downwind left of leg 2. Light wind, true wind speed of only 6 knots. At the masthead, that little indication, the masthead of Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli. As the Americans going through the gate, chasing them down. Pretty hot. They're really sailing high over there on, to my eye, Luna Rossa, and the Italians to try to stay foil-borne as they jibe. Let's see what happens if they can stay on their foils. This has got to be a puckering moment. Look at how high they're sailing coming out of that jibe. They're coming back very high. Americans sailing high as well. Hopefully for them, they're going to find more pressure on the downwind right. Americans going 5 knots faster. Look at the delta here in the speed.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah, Gordon, are we seeing a repeat of the previous match between the Swiss and the Brits?
Well, I would just note that the Italians, to keep the boat on the foils, are having to almost sail back up towards the top mark. I mean, they're really hunting wind.
Yeah, look at this. We're showing a GPS lead to the Americans. The Italians the Italians have right away, Gordon.
Yeah, but they've both been through the top mark, and they're now. The Italians are sailing back towards the top mark in order to stay on the foils. So the wind has really collapsed on them.
Exactly. Both teams are sailing very high angles, John Emmett. What do you think, John?
I mean, basically, they're not going downwind. In fact, I don't know. I mean, Gordon might be right. The Italians might have been even sailing upwind. But if you splash down, I think that's game over. And there's just a bit of a hole up near the top of the course. And the first one to get in new pressure is going to have a big advantage. It's going to be boundary to boundary sailing at the moment.
Yeah, I cut away to show the true wind speed that they're showing on the mastheads again. Just when I cut away, they changed the shot, but they're showing 5 knots. We know that the minimum to start a race is 6.5 knots, but if the wind drops down below that during the race, we go to time limits, leg time limits. We've already done the first leg, so the first leg time limit is no longer in play. But Graham Sweeney, we've got an overall race time limit. Do you remember what that is?
Not off the top of my head, no. But,
yeah, I think that's 45 minutes for this entire
45,
race.
Yeah.
45, Ed Worley is confirming for this entire race now to go, to count. And if the breeze continues to drop, they may, and obviously if they fall off their foils, they may well not finish within the 45 minutes, although the race committee has the ability to shorten the race, and they have the ability to cut off a leg, chop off the 6th leg. As again, as Gordon said, both boats are sailing more across the track, even upwind, as we saw, than they are sailing down the track, desperately trying to stay on their foils. It looks like the Italians are pressured up there for a moment and took a turn down the track in that puff. Man, oh man, this is got to be, now the Americans are in a puff, headed downhill, showing 7.3 knots. I guess that is the wind speed over there by the Americans. Although the Italians are going faster. Yeah, they're in a puff because you can see their ride height now. They're quite a bit higher up out of the water. but they are trailing in this must-win race for the Americans. Susie, if you want to talk, turn you've got yourself muted, and if you want to weigh in here, just there you go. Go ahead, Susie. What are your thoughts
I do.
here?
I'm just enjoying listening to you all because you all know a lot more about sailing than I do. I haven't sailed competitively in 35 years, but at this point, I'm just holding my breath.
Why are you an America's Cup fan then? Why have you tuned into this?
Grown up with it. And I love it. And as I said, my nephew was part of the short team for Magic, so we've been following its progress for the last few years.
Well, Skip Helm, Sally Helm,
yep,
that whole Helm family. Weren't you all sort of at Sag Harbor out on Long Island?
Shelter Island.
Shelter Island, that was it.
Shelter Island, and now the home base is more Newport. I was in Newport for the summer.
Hey, look at this, Susie. Our team has done a Fosey flop here. They are down in the water on port tack, and they are displacing Graham Sweeney. Are both boats? No, the Italians are still foiling.
Look at that swell. It's killing them.
Massive gains to the Italians all the time, but they need to drive shortly as well.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Italians still foiling. And they're going to jibe. They have to jibe. They're turning up a little higher to get some. What are they doing? Are they going to tack? The Italians are going to tack instead of jibe. Look at this. Now, we've seen that in very heavy air days. All of us who race can remember days when we didn't have the cojones to do a jibe in a 30-knot day with a kite up. Oh, the Italians have gotten a boundary penalty. Look at that. They got a boundary penalty. So they got to slow down, 75-meter loss. But they actually, instead of jibing downwind, they did a tack to try to stay on the foils. And the Americans still off the foils to my eye. The Italians are also barely on the foils. There's a maneuver, to use the Sail GP expression. There's a maneuver we haven't seen, Ed Worley.
I don't know what to say. When you're sailing 90 degrees to the mark back and forth across the course and you can't sail toward the mark, what do you say then? When you tack away from the mark to try to stay in the air just because you're trying to stay foiling. They're amazing boats. The technology is amazing, but it's not for me.
John Emmett, did you ever imagine you'd see a tack instead of a jibe on one of these downhill legs?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it several times before. I mean, the first thing, it's absolutely amazing that anything can foil tack in under 6 knots of breeze. I mean, in 6 knots of breeze in my Ilka, I'm sat in the middle of the boat, heeling it to leeward to try and get it unstuck from the water. But the basic premise is they don't want to sail through their own gas. So that's why they're going upwind rather than downwind for the turn, to use their vernacular. So hope that makes sense.
And what have we just seen here, John?
Well, the Italians have done the best bet, keeping foiling. And as soon as they get into that little bit of pressure down the bottom of the course, I think they'll be off. But
John, my goodness, we got a lead change here. The Italians have gone into the lead. The Americans are parked up, and you're talking about attacking and not through your own gas. I don't blame you. We got a big lead change here. The Italians now have gone from a couple hundred meters astern to now a couple hundred meters ahead. The Americans, am I sounding too much like a Sail GP commentator? Am I getting too excited? But we got a lead change again. Bloody hell, as the Americans still planted in the water. And I think it's a good point, John. That's why they tacked rather than jibe, to avoid sailing through their own vortex of disturbed air. But they have stayed on their foils and are 270 meters and climbing in the lead. I see Graham Sweeney's wandering around in his living room, and his, what do you call that, Graham? That beautiful room of yours.
I call it the captain's office, but it's the parlor.
The parlor, the salon. Well, There they go on again, John. They're going to call that the John Emmett tack coming downwind. John, did you like that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think when it's difficult sailing conditions, make it as easy for yourself as you can, because a big loss compared to a small gain, it's just not worth the risk of falling off the foils, because if you really, really slow down, that might be it, game over. So, yeah, I think Italy, they've now got enough speed. They're safe for the moment. The difficulty will be at the top.
Well, they're both foiling. Again,
the difficulty, I think, is the top of the course.
You think it's lighter at the top of the course? You think offshore because it's an easterly, so the shore is down here to the bottom. That's the east. That's looking, toward Italy.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a hole, and if you roll a double six and you get through to that pressure in the middle of the course, you're off. But you can see how high they had to sail. And again, the boat handling at the bottom of the course, the bottom gate, they've got to be really careful, give themselves the thickest ley line they possibly can to make sure they get around.
Big gain here, Gordon Smith, by the Americans. They're going to jibe here on Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, Gordon.
Oh, well, I think John said it all. It's, you sail to stay on the foils. You skillful sails use the conditions or are aware of the conditions. I was just reminded of John sailing in North Wales in Pwllheli, and about 10 miles up the coast of a town called Abersoch next to two islands.
Come on, guys, talk to the video. Talk to the video. We got a starboard tack right-of-way boat crossing ahead of a port tack boat going through the gate at the same time. And this thing is closed right up again, Gordon. Okay, back to you.
Well, I'm just going to indicate you want to see odd sailing in Wales. You need to sail in the opposite direction to the mark to get past it because of the tide. So in here, the sailor needs to be very aware of the wind conditions, and you don't follow a skillful competitive sailor uses the conditions. And that's what we're seeing.
You guys are all analysts. You're all analysts, and superb analysts at that. And you got to come back here to the Crutonic commentator who's calling the play-by-play, as we've got the Italians trailing at least by GPS. Another lead change as the Americans coming from the upwind right, tacking on to starboard. They have right-of-way coming back across the track. Oh, they're shortening it to 4 legs, meaning this upwind leg, and then they're going to finish downwind. They're trying to keep this race alive. So we've only got 2 legs left, according to the race committee. The Americans on starboard at the moment, sailing 5 knots faster, crossing ahead of the Italians easily. I mean, are the Italians foiling? What do you think, Graham Sweeney? Did we lose Graham? Are you there, Graham? You're muted.
Oh, hello, Tom. Yeah, sorry. I was listening to Giles Scott yesterday. He was discussing the why they deem the race on or off due to wind speed, and what the 2 markers at the top and the 2 markers at the bottom have sensors on them, and they use one marker from the top, one from the bottom. If it goes below 6.5, they start going into a delay or sequence or race over. I got a feeling that's wrong. If any of them go below 6.5, it should go into the time delay again. Or
well, pre-start, but you can't stop the race once the race has started, can you?
Well, if it's below 6.5 knots, then surely it's not a raceable course.
Well, everybody knows what the rules are, and they've known the rules since the get-go, and they know that, there's a little bit of a hobby horse from the Italians. They're going to stay on their foils? Yeah, they did. But everybody's known that once the race starts, then it's a first leg time limit and a total race time limit, as we have another lead change here, apparently. Look at the pressure over here in this Cap Gemini overlay. Looks like a lot more breeze here on the right, but the Italians seem to be falling off their foils nonetheless. We've always worried about these overlays, how accurate they actually are. As the Americans are the giveaway boat in this cross, we got another lead change here as the Americans will duck below. There, they took that overlay off. And the Americans going astern and heading to the upwind right in a nail biter for both these teams, especially the Americans, who are on 4-1. The Italians lead this series 4-1. This is a must-win race for the Americans, who keep trading at least the GPS lead and a couple of actual leads. The Americans are way ahead down that run on leg 2, and they keep saying leg 3 of 6. Well, it's only leg 3 of 4 now. We've heard the race committee, so don't believe what you see on the tube always. Here come the Americans back on starboard tack with a GPS lead, coming into the top gate the last time. This is going to be a 4-leg race. The port tack Italians are the giveaway boat. The Americans on starboard with the wind coming over their starboard or right side of the right-of-way boat. Correct, Mr. Steve MacGyver. And Luna Rossa is not going to cross. The Americans hunting them a bit, sailing down a little lower to force them to see if they can't quite lay that end of the gate. The Americans may have, by doing that, forcing the Italians to take another tack, which, if you're an American Magic fan, will be really stoked by this latest turn of events. Clever move by Tommy Slingsby. What do you think, John Emmett?
Absolutely. I think that was a race-winning move. If he could have knocked them off the foils, that would have been game, set, and match, as it were. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's great. It's great racing because you really don't know what's going to happen next in a game of snakes and ladders.
Are they going to tack or jibe now? They still haven't gone through the gate. They're going to tack so they don't sail through their disturbed air. They were getting to the boundary, so they couldn't. They were waiting for some pressure so that when they tacked, they did not fall off the foils. But
Italy's in trouble.
Graham Sweeney, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, Italy's in trouble, aren't they? Look at that. They're parked. That's really, that's not what we want to see, is it?
Yeah, but who else is parked, Graham?
Well,
the Americans are
America's
parked.
not parked.
Yeah, they are.
Are they?
Yep.
I'm a few seconds behind, so.
Yep. Yeah, they've fallen off the foils as well. The Italians still have to go through the gate, and the Americans, who are also displacing now, going downhill. And now, does anybody, what's the time limit? Is there plenty of time? Anybody get the time that this started? Yeah, go ahead, John.
I think you've got 25 minutes.
We got a lot of excited people here on the comments. I haven't gone to the comments yet today. They're going there now. It really is astonishing what we're seeing. There's that race-winning move, as John Emmett called it. There was those diamonds overlap. That should have been a penalty. I don't know why it wasn't. T. Hutch is happy there in the middle. Those of you watching on the video, T. Hutch just gave his applause. But those diamonds, sorry, I was on the chat when they went by in that replay, and they overlapped, and I don't know why. I guess because the Americans didn't protest. This is still player-initiated umpiring, and if the team doesn't fly a protest, call it, they push a button, which is the protest button, indicating to the umpires they want that adjudicated. And if they don't do that, they won't get an answer from the umpires, who I presumably would have penalized the Italians. Not that it matters at this distance. But all of you on the chat, I haven't been ignoring you. We just have been had such great commentary here from our analysts on the Zoom. Susie Helm, you got to be pretty stoked right now, to use a 1980s word.
Yes, I am. But we still have a long way to go. Not just this race, but a long way to go.
Well, that's a good point. There's a long way to go in this race. And, and a long way to go yet in the series, as the Americans are definitely flopped down. They're
just flopped.
Well, they've been, I think, flopped. Now they're really going slow. I mean, even in displacement mode. They're on the final leg. The Italians out there in the upper right going 11 knots as they go through they're going to have to jibe here before they get to the boundary. The Americans are starting to go a little, and again, I guess that's their boat speed, not the wind speed, as the Italians now just, after that jibe, have lost any mojo they had. The delta staying about the same, 400 meters. Looks like Lake Erie slop, Ken Saban is saying. Pass the Rolaids, Tom Ogletree. Yeah, to all of you that have been on the commentary, Mark Holland, thank you. It's 46 minutes past the hour. Our crack statistician, Mark Holland, tells us is the time limit. 4:56. 4:46 or 4:56, guys? 46 past the hour. So that is another, that's 30 plus 4 plus 1, 35 minutes from now, right? Something like that. Thanks, gang, on Mark. Magic still has 24 minutes to go, 6 nautical miles, 6/10 of a nautical mile. And the Americans leading by 650 meters as they jibe. Yeah, talk about whack-a-mole, Mark Atchison. Mark Michelson, our weather guru here for Sailing Illustrated, on the comments as well. Gordon Smith, what are you grabbing there? You grabbing some lunch there?
I was actually about to grab a Danish pastry. I know we're a bit of an eating crew here, but there we're going to have a bit of pastry.
Nice. Well, being in Denmark, you ought to have a Danish pastry, I suppose.
But I also, following the Winnie the Pooh theme, I also have a bit of honey to go on it.
Those of you who watched our last couple shows, are the Italians through the gate yet? They are through the gate, right?
Yes.
So they're headed downhill. They're through the gate, headed downhill, but they are sailing more upwind, almost like they're going through the gate again. They're sailing more upwind, trying desperately to get back on the foils. And the Americans sailing downhill on this final leg, leading by almost a kilometer, but that could change in a matter of seconds if the Italians were to get foiling. And the Americans, they're both going about the same speed in displacement mode. This is crazy sailing. Okay, I'm not going to get into an argument with any of you about, is this exciting or not? If you're an American, it's pretty exciting, I guess. If you're an Italian, you're thinking, this is pretty croutonic. Bannero, Rick Bannero, hello, Rick, in Connecticut. Aren't they all Danish pastries when you were in Denmark? Gordon, that's a question for you from Rick Bannero.
In fact, none of them are Danish pastries when you're in Denmark. They're all called Wienerpol, which means Vienna pastries or Vienna bread.
I remember that. I was on the jury for a Women's World's Championship at Royal Danish Yacht Club. Okay, well, pretty happy there at the American Magic base. They're foiling again on American Magic, going 30 plus knots. So that was that big foil on Matthias Collins. Alistair Murray, Mr. President, in Melbourne, where it is 13 minutes after 11 p.m., saying, yes, this is Croutonic racing. Brenton Cove dinghy sailing. Now, there's a Newport, Rhode Island reference. Hello, Richard Lawton. American Magic will be happy. Italians got a boundary penalty. Italians are disqualified. DSQ for going too far outside the boundary. There it is. So the USA have won this race, even though they haven't finished yet, but they will. And now this series is 4-2. Oh, there's some happiness in the New York American Magic Team Hospitality Center. Okay, repeat after me. Mark was right. Is that you, Mark Holland? You were right? I see some excitement. Okay, Ed Worley, you got to be a happy camper.
I am very happy, but I like John Emmons' perspective. They're right. I mean, when you're out there, you got to see all the conditions, but I'm very happy that we won. It keeps us alive. Are they going to have any more races today?
Well, now that's the next good question. Matthias Collins
I'm really happy. I'm ecstatic. So I got to wear my American Magic hat. Every time I wear it, they win. So I got to wear that.
Matthias Collins thinks that a DSQ should be -1 point. Well, that's, again, not in the rules. Maybe it should be, but they all know what the rules are. There are some other, I cut to that too late, but there are some American Magic cheers in the public village there, the America's Cup Village. 4-2 now, the Italians leading. Holy buckets, wow. Mark Wharton Reed, Ken Saban in Toledo, Ohio. A win is a win is a win. Man, oh man. I don't know, Graham Sweeney. Is this proper America's Cup racing? I mean, we, as Gordon keeps reminding us, it is what it is, so celebrate it.
Well, it's I did call it the Whack-A-Mole Cup. Maybe we should call it the Undermole Cup now, instead of underdog, eh? It's good though, isn't it? Let's be honest. We're sitting here, we're all sitting here moaning about it, but it is good racing. It is a good sport. So let's just enjoy it, eh?
Well, I think that's true, and Gordon keeps reminding of that. He's a very positive, upbeat guy. And of course, if I had a Vienna pastry, I would be upbeat and positive too, right, Gordo?
I'm only suggesting that if you had some breakfast in the morning, your outlook would be brighter.
Well, you know, you can't eat at 5 in the morning. I don't know. I don't usually eat till after the show anyway. Any show I've ever done, I don't like to eat beforehand. Takes blood away from my limited brain capacity and puts it to my tummy. So that's why I don't eat. Tommy and Lucas sailed a brilliant displacement and barely on their foils race. Mark Wharton Reed is saying, John Emmett, you called it. You said it was a race-winning move when they dialed down a little bit. What's a dial down up there at the top gate?
Well, they just made absolutely sure that the Italians weren't going to make it through the gate. In fact, they could have possibly pushed it very slightly harder, but I think they got it spot on so as not to risk missing the gate themselves. And yeah, it's about not making the big mistakes. And it showed today that any team is vulnerable, any team, because I still think that, you know, the Silver Bullet was probably faster. But yeah, hopefully we get 2 more races today. It's really hard to tell looking at the monitor how much wind there is, but it looks pretty marginal to me at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hangry, you call it. You got to have some food so you make good decisions. Well, if you're racing, if you're yacht racing, but you know when John, you're young and you don't get, you know, you got to have some food so you don't get we old guys, we can't have the blood rushing from our brain to our tummy or other things, or you know,
so low blood sugar level in your brain affects your ability to make good decisions, and it is been shown in clinical study. You know, people are more prone to get angry when they have low blood sugar. I mean, it's more obvious in a diabetic, but yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're, you know, having an important board meeting or sailing an ILCA. You need to fuel yourself up.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's been well documented.
But, you know, I never get angry anyway, so what difference? It's 6 in the morning, and I don't eat breakfast. I eat lunch, you know.
I would consider changing that habit, Tom. I mean, I had a agreement with Tula, who, and I'm biased, is probably widely considered one of the nicest girls on the circuit. But we didn't pack the trailer until we'd had something to eat. That was one of the best decisions we made at the start of the campaign. No packing until after eating.
Well, no commentary till after eating for me. Jody Shields says that race had more up and downs than a stripper's undies at a buck show. Jody in Wangi, north of Sydney, where it's 23:18. In Auckland, if you're watching, it's 18 minutes after 1 in the morning. We've got Gordon Smith in Copenhagen, where it's 15:19 in the afternoon. John Emmett an hour earlier in Weymouth. We appreciate all of your coming on. And Graham Sweeney in Scotland, where I think he's on the same. What time is it in Scotland for you? Are you on London time or an hour later?
GMT. British Mean Time.
So you're on London time, right?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you're on UTC. So you're an hour.
Summertime.
I don't have summer.
So you're an hour. So it's only 13:19 there. Or sorry, I believe it's 13. Yeah.
No,
What time is it there?
he's teasing you. He's on British summertime.
Okay. Don't tease me. I haven't had anything to eat. My brain is. I got to go eat something so I don't doze off here. Sean Hogan. Sean's in the hospital in Australia. Sean, we hope you're having a good go, a better go. I know it's been a tough road for you to hoe lately, but he has to admit, he says, I'm dozing off. Well, in Oz, of course, as we said, it's approaching midnight, at least in the eastern half of the country. Alistair Murray says he too, he as well, dozing off. But at least those of you who are American Magic fans, and even you, John Emmett, I think you're happy that the Americans won one to keep this series alive.
Yeah. More racing, the better. I mean, since we've got time to chat, two key things as well in terms of physiology. Your caffeine half-life is approximately 5 hours in terms of thinking about when you're having your coffee. And it's much better if you don't have it the first 2 hours you get up, to let your body's systems wake you up before you prime it every morning. And then the eating does work the other way around. I would probably not eat a heavy meal or do heavy aerobic exercise within 3 hours of bedtime. But yeah, if you can avoid the caffeine first thing in the morning, wake up naturally, and then have it maybe 2 hours later, you avoid that midday slump. But the not a big meal before bedtime is pretty important.
What about no caffeine at all? My 92-year-old father he says, and I believe him, he maybe tried some coffee, but he has never had coffee, he says, in his life, because he doesn't want to have the reliance on the upper. And he gets up, has a big glass of water, that gets his system going, and off he goes. What about that?
I mean, I think there's a lot just to be said for moderation and balance, but caffeine really helps with your fat utilization. It helps you metabolize your fat stores better. It's something I normally do as part of my aerobic routine. So 45 minutes pre-aerobic will have maybe 200 milligrams of caffeine. It takes about 15 minutes to kick in. And for us middle-aged men, it does help first thing in the morning when you need to visit the bathroom. But there's a lot of antioxidant properties which are associated with coffee, both caf and decaf. So I wouldn't overthink it. One of the things that came out in the pandemic, it's really good to be sociable. Homo sapiens are social animals, and meeting your friends for coffee in the morning, it's a good thing to do. And I mean, heck, I do like the taste of the stuff.
Yeah, I thought you drank tea. What about you Brits who don't ever drink coffee and drink tea in the morning? We're going to tell that tea joke, not today, because Julie would give me a finger wag, but there's a lot of speculation here. Let's go back to the racing. This is Sailing Illustrated, the Dietary Illustrated today. Ted Ryman. Hello, Ted, down in Cape Town. A bacon sandwich and a Red Bull is a good kickstart for me.
That's not a good start for anyone.
Bannero is saying, I knew there was a good reason I needed more caffeine. I think and that's in reference to your comment about it getting started in the morning. Hamish Ross just joined at 1:25 a.m. Any news? Well, let's have Gordon Smith tell Hamish Ross what's going on. What have we seen so far today, Gordo?
Sorry, my sound.
Yeah, we got it. We got you.
Okay.
We've had two races. What have we seen?
Well, I think we've had the weather disturbing people's plans, in summary. I think that Alinghi were well prepared and Ineos were misprepared. And I think in the case of AM and LRPP, I think it was a wonderful AC kind of dramatic event. Can we put it like that? It was someone's going to win.
Who won each match, Gordon?
Well, okay, I didn't realize I was going to catch him that far up. Okay, Alinghi took the first one and American Magic took the second one against the odds in both cases, which is fabulous.
There we go. That's what we need. See, you guys are the analysts. I have to be the play-by-play guy, the straight guy, and you guys can make the jokes and give us the advice and commentary, right? Okay, we got another race coming up. It looks like they're promoting it. The Brits against I'm listening. Sorry, I'm listening in my ear to Shirley. The Brits, of course, against the Swiss. Again, it's still a must-win situation for the Swiss, who are now on 4-2. Hamish Ross. Hamish must have gotten up to take a pee at 1:25 in the morning in Auckland. John Emmett in the afternoon says he now feels the need to have a cup of tea. Matthias Collins wondering if the towing ribs will be racing each other. Okay, well, the Swiss won't go away. We hear the commentators saying. Ed Worley, who's going to win this one? You don't have a dog in this fight, do you?
Just for sentimental reasons, I would love to see the final between American Magic and Ineos. I think that'd be good for tradition. And if Ineos is able to get their equipment back in order or change their jib, I think they're going to have a good chance of winning this race. But it depends on how much wind is on the course. I'm surprised we're having another race.
So if there's more breeze, you think the Brits will win, and if it stays light, you think the Swiss are going to win?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think, Graham? Sweeney in Scotland on the same time as the UK?
Right. I think if you start looking at these boats and you start seeing the main and the jib starting to belly out, that's just looking at a boat that's totally out of phase. So when you see that, you're seeing anyone can win, because it's not the racing. There's no wind for it. There's nothing to give you the performance. So I think we're looking at boats which are struggling around, and we should be seeing boats that should be at the top of their ability. You're not at the bottom.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Alan Long, we agree. We wish they'd show the wind all the time, both the direction and strength. John Harper, hello, John. New name on here, I think. He's been on this morning. The dial down was brilliantly executed. Kudos to American Magic. This clock, what's the committee saying?
Are pushing the start to 15:36.
That's just 15:36. So another 10 minutes from now, they pushed the start back. You can see up here in the corner that clock keeps going back, as obviously Ed Worley's agreeing. They don't have the requisite amount of average wind. We keep talking about the boxcar average, 5-minute boxcar average, like a train was. Each boxcar, they start it, and then if the wind falls off, they start another 5-minute average immediately. And if the wind falls below 6.5 knots, then they start another 5-minute chunk or boxcar of time. John Schaefer, if it is anyone's game in sailing, remember that the sailor controls the boat, but God controls the wind. Yeah. What's Peter Lester saying here?
We're getting later in the day. I'm looking up the course now, and certainly the right hand, as it's looked all day, there just looks to be a little bit more pressure in the right. But
okay, he's agreeing that the right is right, but that hasn't been. Oh, they're off the foils after that tack, was it? The Brits. It doesn't matter because they haven't got a starting sequence going yet. Hello, Commodore Peter Bretschker, who's watching from Thornbury, England. Where in England, Graham Sweeney, is Thornbury? No idea?
Not a clue, Tom. No, not a clue.
Gordon, do you know where Thornbury is, Gordon?
It's not in Derbyshire.
A lot of help you guys are. John Emmett, where's Thornbury?
Not in Dorset.
Nobody knows where it is. Somebody's going to Google it for us. Maybe Peter Bretschker, Commodore Peter Bretschker, one of the best Commodores we ever had at the Balboa Yacht Club, is on here watching from Thornbury. I think he and his wife, Kari, another leading light at Balboa Yacht Club, I think they're over actually searching their family trees, their roots. Pete Cariço, I murdered the Portuguese pronunciation of his last name, at SMC. What is SMC, Pete? We would get haircuts before light air regattas, so we'd be more sensitive to feeling the wind. Well, I think with their helmets on And goggles, I'm not so sure that it's a matter of feeling the wind anymore. What package are they running now here? There's a back to San Francisco, the reliably windy and iconically beautiful venue where the 2013 Cup took place. We saw this package yesterday or the day before, and I may have even run this on the show. I may have had this young guy who is quite inspirational. He's been watching the Cup, and now to be a part of the team, I think he's one of John Emmett. Do you know this guy? Is he a trimmer?
Yeah, no, I know him really well. Although I don't think I can say his name. I think it's pronounced Diffrid. He's very well. She came through the 29ers, and I guess this is his third or fourth Cup, depending how you look at it. He actually did some cycloring, or grinding, as it were, which you wouldn't think to look at him.
Yeah, I enjoyed his video presentation. The Brits have been doing really good video. We've been saying that all along. The Ineos video packages have been really good, including this one. Take it for Ted Ryman down in Cape Town in the RSA, Republic of South Africa. Whether he knows this or he Googled it, Thornbury is just north of Bristol in the UK. And Pete Cariso saying that SMC equals St. Mary's College, that great sailing school in the east of our country. And they're still running this package as we're waiting for wind. What else here, gang? Fog Machine wants to know if Thornbury is near the 100-acre wood. Gordon Smith, how did we get into that discussion yesterday about, and if those just joining us and they keep seeing references to poo sticks, Gordo, what was that all about? Is that all about?
Well, it's from the children's story, Winnie the Pooh. It's not When We Were Six. What's the actual tale? What's the actual name of the book? We all call it Winnie the Pooh, but I need to go back and check the book. It's just a competition between, I was going to say children, but anybody of a fun enough mind to go and compete with a small stick and toss it over one side of a bridge, and you run to the other side of the bridge, and who comes out first wins. But I think the best place to do that, as I said, is in Bolton on the Water, because right through the middle of the town, there's a stream with a number of bridges, and you can do a kind of marathon poo stick thing, which is really, that's the pinnacle.
So you throw it in the water, and then if you're on a single bridge, look to the other side. That's how it was done.
Other side of the bridge.
That's how it was done in Winnie the Pooh. But you're saying it's even more fun. It'd be like on the canals in Amsterdam if they had any real current in them. They do have a little bit, but throw it into the water on one bridge, then run around to the next downstream and see who's poo stick. Now, was there an art to designing? Did you? I mean, this is a tree. This is a stick off a tree. What is a poo stick physically, literally?
It's whatever you pick off the ground that might float. And then there is a huge argument, which I'm expecting John and Graham to chip into, as the actual hydrodynamic shape, which is ideal. Some people would go for one with little sticks, little twigs or leaves coming out of it, because it's going to catch the water. Others go for, long and thin. Big debate.
Graham Sweeney, what kind of a stick would you pick off the ground if you were in a poo stick competition against Gordon?
Well, we don't have, like I say, we don't have many sticks up here, but we do have duck racing. We have a New Year's Eve duck race every year where they put all the ducks in, and they get quite inventive. We had one year where the guy fitted rockets to the duck, and so he could try and get it to go down the Voe and a little bit quicker than the rest of them. It didn't seem to do much apart from blow up. But
Graham, rubber ducks, right?
Yeah, rubber ducks. Yeah. Not turkeys. Rubber ducks.
Not live ducks is what Gordon was referring to. You wouldn't put a live duck on a rocket and send it.
Don't suggest it.
Well, John Emmett, let's talk about. He's saying not mallards. The House at Pooh Corner. John Harper says was the name of the book, but We're in a start sequence. Okay, we're coming back to reality here after talking again for the second or third show in a row about poo sticks. Scared the poo out of the duck farm machines. Poo sticks. We'll get John Emmett's take on what is the best style or design of stick if you're going to be in one of these poo stick races. We have lobster racing during clam bake season, Alan Long says. We have alligator racing down in Florida and in the Pacific, in the Gulf Coast. 2:30 to go. We got the Brits entering from the upwind left end, the port end of the starting line. The Swiss who are off the screen because they don't show us. Come on, guys. And they will enter here, presumably. I hope the Swiss haven't fallen off their foils as they're not appearing in the screen as quick. Well, they're going the same speed. So here they come. In fact, coming in at pace. The Brits are in. No penalties here. Oh, there is a penalty to the Brits. They were in too early. They crossed that upwind vertical. There's a vertical off each end of the line. It's not the line or an extension of the starting line. You can't cross the upwind vertical at your assigned end of the line, the H as some people call it, prior to your assigned time to enter. So the Brits now, this is an interesting turn of events here, is the Brits will have to take that penalty. And I don't know if it's a 50 or a 75 meter, what it is, penalty after the start. So they're going to start by definition behind the Swiss. Quite an interesting turn of events in this yet another must-win scenario for the Swiss. They're down 4-2 in this first to win 5. And Ed Worley, who would have thought that there'd be a pre-start penalty to the Brits? How in the world could have that happened, Ed Worley?
I'm surprised.
Is that the Crutonic software again?
It could be. You try to cut it too close, and the GPS is lagging behind.
But John Emmett, that wasn't even close. They were in halfway down the starting line, I think, at their.
So the good thing is, I think it's indicative that there's more wind than expected, and so I'm expecting a port flyer from Ineos now to try and scrub that penalty almost immediately. But I just think it was a lot windier than they were expecting when they did their time and distance, nothing more than that. And again, always good learning experience. But let's go back to the race.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And thanks, Ed Worley, because that was surprising. And there's been a lot of discussion about the Defender-provided software package. We got a port starboard here coming up with just 6, 5, 4, 3 seconds to go. The Brits will take their stern, and as John said, they're going to have an upwind port tack flyer off the transom of the Swiss, headed to the upwind right. We'll see when the penalty, the Brits, the TV graphics guy had that wrong. The Brits have that penalty. They are trailing. They've erased the penalty. It's a 50-meter penalty, apparently. They have to fall 50 meters behind the leader, which they have now done. And the Swiss in the lead just as they have a split tack off the starting line. The Brits headed to the upwind right. And the Swiss heading to what has been the softer upwind left. But it's been patchy, and that has been changing. This is an easterly wind for those of you just joining. It's been an easterly breeze all day. And by the way, in the youth this morning, the Americans were DSQ in one race and DNS in the other. The French DNS in both. And Marco Gradoni from Italy won both races. He's up three wins and 1 second place, way out ahead now in Group A. Okay, the starboard tack Brits have right of way over the port tack Swiss, who will duck, go astern of the Brits. Rick Lyons. Good morning to you, Rick. He's in Michigan at my home club. He's remembering the frog races at Association Island. That brings back some memories into the 70s. Wonder who else on here remembers Association Island and what that was all about. God, you talk about a hellhole. Oh, the leads keep changing here, at least The Brits were ahead at that cross after crossing astern at the start. Then they crossed ahead at the first cross rather, up the leg 1 of 6. And not much in it, though. Bruce Nelson, he coached at Association Island in the eastern end of Lake Ontario back in the day when it was our national sailing center of sorts. Okay, the Swiss, having right-of-way, are going to not be in contact with the Brits. Brits crossing ahead again, just. Was close, Ed Worley. Those of you watching on YouTube, are you ahead or behind of us? This, of course, you're watching it 20-second delayed from, you're watching it on either YouTube or Facebook from us here at Sailing Illustrated. You'll see a 10, 12, 15, maybe even 20-second delay. But those of you, the Zoomers, you're seeing it real time from me. And those of you, Gordon Smith, you're watching it also on YouTube, right? How much are we ahead or behind with the ESPN Plus of your YouTube feed?
Currently just 1 or 2 seconds, but it can be up to, 10 or so seconds. But right now it's pretty good.
Okay, good. Yeah, ESPN Plus has been ahead. If you're watching at a watch party here, we're watching this replay now, the Brits crossing ahead again. So this is going to be close again, though. Look at this. It's the GPS showing the Swiss leading, but they're the port tack giveaway boat. And if they have to duck it all, they're going to struggle to lay the upwind starboard end of the gate. The Brits with the green circle now have the right-of-way. Oh, they took it away on this shot. There's the duck. A little bit of a dial down from the Brits. Same thing we saw with Tom Slingsby dialing down Jimmy in the previous. Not quite the same location, a little further, well, almost the same location. The Swiss now are not going to lay the gate, and they'll have to tack again. And the Brits, by doing the dial down, have gained here as they will pass through the gate and go around the upwind right end. There they go. Yeah, Peter Blakely, if you're watching us on a live stream, either on Facebook or YouTube, we will be delayed from real time 10, 12, 15 seconds. I don't know what it is. Sean Hogan in the hospital, way too nuanced for me. I'm high on massive doses of ketamine. Well, suffice to say, wherever in the world you are, the Brits have a lead, a nice lead, going down leg 2 in this must-win for Alinghi. If they're to stay alive in this series, it's 4-2. They've won 2 now, the Swiss have. And the Brits are going really fast. John Emmett saying they're going almost 40 knots. We'll back down to 30 now as they've come through the jibe. So the breeze back up over what we've seen so far. And Gordon Smith, as you predicted, if the breeze was up, you thought that would help. And Ed Worley, you said the same thing. Gordon, you like this breeze for the Brits?
Yeah, I think anything as you get closer to sort of 13, 14 knots is in the prime spot for Ineos. In my opinion, I'm just reading the tea leaves, but so yes, and also it's a little more consistent. But I don't mind the lighter winds and a little bit of excitement. I like it being a little bit unpredictable, but I think as soon as the wind picks up a little bit, then Ineos have got something to work with.
Yeah, it would seem that in there's 11 knots now they're showing down there on the screen. So that's a little more than we saw in the 5, 6, 7 knots we saw earlier. And that seems to be favoring the Brits as, they were touching down there for a moment. And the Swiss, the Delta quickly, here they're back foiling now, the Brits are. As the Swiss were catching up quickly there for a moment, Brits back on their foil. So it is still, in the lump at least, it seems to be a bit marginal. The Brits just into some newer pressure, John Emmett saying. 250-meter lead. The Brits going 5 knots faster at the moment. John Schaefer saying, come on, better wind equals better sailing. It's not really reading the tea leaves. Well, better sailing, but I think in the upper range, we've seen the Brits be faster, John Schaefer. There's a jibe and another touchdown from the Brits. But the wind should get them back up on their foot, and it does. The Brits should be laying the bottom gate pretty close. The Swiss still trailing by 200, almost 300 meters. Yeah, those of you watching in the States, you'll see we're all watching ESPN. If you're watching ESPN Plus in the States like we are here, we're all seeing that at the same time. But my stream to you will be delayed by something 9-10 seconds, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. The Brits through the bottom gate now. Leg 2 of 6 is completed, starting leg 3. One more jibe for the Swiss. Rick Lyons has just checked this. Those of you who remember Association Island, which was an old GE recreational camp for their employees, which was leased by what was then USYRU. The late great Bill Benson took that over because the Olympics in '76 were going to be, the main Olympics were in Montreal, and the Sailing Olympics in Kingston, Ontario, up on the north shore of Lake Ontario. And Bill Benson thought it would be good to train in similar conditions. It turned out they weren't so similar, and leased Association Island, this employee camp, which had some shacks as houses on it and one big lodge for serving food, and moved the mobile race management team there. And a lot of classes ran their nationals or North Americans and even some world championships, especially Olympic classes, at Ass Island, as we used to call it. And Rick Lyons and I were there for some fireball racing and for some laser and sunfish events back in the day, in the 70s, early 70s. And now it's an RV camp. It'd be much better suited for that, Rick Lyons.
Yeah, it's getting a little nervy on...
A little nervy there for the Brits. John Emmett, do the Brits have this one in the bag or not?
I don't think you can ever say it's completely in the bag, but if you look, they're just winched into some pressure now, higher, faster, and more or less directly to windward. So I think that's probably the second nail in the coffin. And if you look where the Swiss are going, they're actually sailing away from the pressure. So I do think this race is done and dusted, but, you're not going to give them an inch. But really interesting, just that one match racing move just nails down the whole race.
Looks like, if you believe the Cap Gemini now, it looks like they're both sailing out of pressure to the upwind left. But I don't believe that Cap Gemini overlay, frankly. The Brits are covering regardless. I think Alan Long's comment is correct. They've tacked over onto Star Olympic. Boy, that looks like they're plenty pressured up in that tack. And they should be laying the gate now. The Brits are 400-meter lead, comfortable lead. I don't know that the fat lady is singing here, but she is, as they say, warming up for the Swiss. We're down 4-2. They haven't come back 1-2 in a row. A couple days ago, they won one, and this morning they won. This morning for me, earlier this afternoon in Barcelona. Keep it going here. You can hear Sir Ben, I guess that is, on Ineos. Or it may be Dylan Fletcher on the port side. He'd be driving right now on the Brit boat, Dylan Fletcher. Tell us about Dylan Fletcher, John.
And I see Dylan nearly every day in Weymouth sometimes. I mean, he's always there in his moth. And when they were doing the 49er campaign, don't forget he's an Olympic 49er gold medalist. I mean, it was one of the most exciting races to watch, literally by a meter and a half. He's always out, just getting boats to go faster. And actually, I bumped into his mother-in-law at Castle Cove probably about a week ago, loading up her aero to go over to Barcelona to see them. But yeah, I mean, Dylan's very good at making boats go fast, and this lead is gradually creeping up as you expect from a faster boat.
400 meters. Well, the Brits now, they weren't laying before. Now they may be laying on starboard tack. 400 meters is the lead. Thanks for that, John. I want to thank all of our Zoomers. We've got John and Ed Worley and Graham Sweeney, Gordon Smith, and Susie Helm on from Philadelphia, from that famously good sailing family. Susie's not been doing much yacht racing herself of late, but she's a big America's Cup fan back to I guess, the 80s. Sandra Griffin.
Can I just say something?
Please do, Susie. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that Sandra Griffin is my sister.
Oh, nice.
So you got another Helm on board, and her son's involved in the TP52 sailing. So I told her to get online just so she could enjoy this too. So thank you very much.
Where is Sandra located, if she doesn't want to come on and say herself?
Hello.
There she is. Hi, Sandra Griffin.
How are you? I'm Sandra Helm Griffin, yes.
Where are you, Sandra?
Well, right now I'm in East Quogue, New York.
East
Quogue, New York.
Out on the east end of Long Island.
That's me.
Good.
Just left Newport.
Okay, did you come across on the ferry?
I sure did.
What do you think here of the Brits leading in this match? Are you cheering for one of these teams, or are you holding out for the American Magic race against?
Well, of course I'm holding out for American Magic, because I don't know if Susie told you, our nephew was on the build team of American Magic.
She did, in fact, that he was on the short team. So welcome to both of you. If you had to pick one, Sandra, in this pair, who would be your favorite?
I would pick the British, because my son works for a British guy.
Okay. Everybody's got an angle. Thanks for coming on, Sandra. Again, that famously good. You weren't on here maybe when I said I knew your late great, I guess, sister.
Yes.
Sally, who was a major contributor to our sport. I've known Sally since the 70s, early 80s, and she passed away here in the last year or so, right? And Skip, I knew.
In March.
Yeah.
She passed away in March.
What a great contributor she was to our beloved sport. There's the wind showing 11 knots here.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
And everybody that's not, a reminder, if you're no longer chatting with us on the Zoom, please mute yourselves. The Brits, excuse me, Graham Sweeney, your team, hold up your pillow for us again. Graham Sweeney, and show us who you're cheering for. Go ahead, Graham.
I'm definitely cheering for the Brits, of course, although it might get me hung being in Scotland, but there we are.
Your delta has shrunk here a bit. I wasn't getting personal there, Graham. Your delta has shrunk here a bit. It's down to 300. What was it? Still comfortable.
Yeah, they're soaking down.
Brits are sailing a little higher, trying to get over in front of them, I suspect, into the same breeze as the Swiss have now jibed. And also now sailing quite a bit higher coming out of that jibe. Trying to stay well and truly and comfortably foil-borne. Delta's now under 300. And if it gets light in the remaining 2 1/4 legs, anything could happen. Let's see if the Brits jibe through their own disturbed air. I think they're going fast enough that they're sailing ahead of their disturbed air. Let's see. The sky is looking angry in the south, Peter Lester, who's out on the race course, said. The wind is blowing from the east, so south would be to the right here on the screen. That is the east, that is the west, the shore behind them. So we were expecting some rain showers, maybe squally conditions, as, yes, John Emmett, GBR does seem to be laying the gate just. The Swiss are going to jibe now onto starboard jibe way over here. Two more legs to go. Nice ley line choice there. Nice call of the ley line by the Brits. Heading upwind on leg 5 with a comfortable lead. Ed Worley, you don't have a dog in this fight. You cheering for American Magic. Do you think the Brits have this in the bag?
Yeah, if they don't fall off the foils, I think they do. I think it'd be nice to have American Magic and Ineos in the final. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Did you see the article that I posted on Facebook last night? The long article from stuff.co.nz featuring discussion with Brad Butterworth, who's on the board of Alinghi Red Bull Racing.
Yes, I did.
Meanwhile, what are we seeing here? The Swiss have touched down. Well, maybe not. They're just sailing really low there for a minute to try to stay on the foils. Must be lightish there in the lower left corner of the track. The Brits seem to be comfortably foil-borne with the Royal Yacht Squadron Burgee there on the back end of their boat. What did you think of that interview with Brad Butterworth?
I found it fascinating because I agree with him in a lot of things, and it's going to get some people's dander up, I think, and perhaps that's what he's trying to do.
You think? You think Brad Butterworth would ever stir the pot?
Well, I remember what DC said. He said, why would anybody build a 12 out of fiberglass unless he wanted to cheat? That started a whole controversy back then.
That sure did.
But
86, 87 in Frio, the plastic fantastics of New Zealand. And Brad Butterworth, the Kiwi that he is, he called it the management by Grant Dalton and the Kiwis. He called it a communistic state.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I don't like how the Defender is managing things. As far as I'm still a purist. I don't think the Defender should ever race against the Challengers. I just don't think, and I don't think the Challengers should be paying the Defender all kinds of money to buy stuff they don't need and funding the defense. I just don't find that right. But I wouldn't call it a communist plot or a communist system. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, you probably wouldn't get a headline if you called it just, we think he's being dictatorial. Okay, back to the racing. It closed up there for a minute. They're on leg 5 of 6. Hank Stewart has weighed in, stirring the pot. Hank is great sailor, great race officer, done some judging too, I think. Hank in Rochester, New York. A member of the New York Yacht Club, and his license plate, the yellow New York, State of New York license plate, says NYYC on it. Does it not, Hank Stewart? That's what my spies tell me anyway. Tom Fishbeck says, Ed Worley, that he has that same shirt as yours. He says, is that the 86-87 Stars and Stripes shirt? What are you wearing there?
It's the Stars and Stripes shirt. I'm trying to see. It's no, I think it's like a 92 shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Brits through the top gate being chased by the Swiss. We'll see what the delta is. We haven't paid too much attention to the times today in the deltas. We've been looking at distance. And if the Brits can stay foil-borne, I think they will have this one in the bag. And they are on match point. So they would take this 5-2. Not a sweep, not even a gentleman's sweep. As the Swiss still attack away from that top gate. Are going to be quite a bit behind. But we've seen those leads evaporate when one team or the other falls off the foils. Seems to be plenty of breeze here on the track. They come out high nonetheless. In fact, speaking of falling off the foils, Gordon Smith, what's going on here?
Well, I think the end of this race is very edgy. I think Ineos have been really focusing on staying on the foils, which I don't think they were really as serious about in the first race. And I think if they learned a lesson, it was stay on the foils. And I think
here's a replay.
Lingy sailed themselves into a trouble. Yeah, Lingy sailed themselves into trouble there.
Well, if you're a Brit fan, you can see the Brits behind them here in this replay, well down the track and looking like they're foil-borne as the Swiss go on their bellies. A belly flop, a Fozy flop, John Emmett.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame the Swiss because the Brits are heading down into good pressure. They would have finished the Delta, a minute ahead. So they just had to push it. Otherwise, the race was over. And actually, let's be honest, their competition is over now. And that's that really. I expect to see similar with the Italians, where the teams would just play it a little bit safer to stay on the foils, just like you would in lighter winds. And I think GBR raced very well. I mean, how they shed the penalty and that windward gate. They weren't just the faster boat. I think they sailed better. But hats off to the Swiss. It wasn't 5-0, which a lot of people predicted.
Yeah, I think after that first day, it looked like the handwriting, thanks, John, was on the wall that they would, in fact, sweep. Or maybe, I think I was, Grant Dalton said it was going to be 5-0, and I think I said it was going to be 5-1. So it's 5-2, and bravo Zulu to the Brits. Ed Worley's going to get his way. The Brits in the finals. He's hoping that the Americans can come through from their deficit of 4-2 down to the Italians and get a chance to race the Brits in the LVC finals. We shall see. Good on Rita, Tom Ogletree is saying. Ineos Britannia, and Ben said, tell us again, John Emmett, why all of Ben's boats. You know Ben well. You know his history in the Olympic, the most decorated Olympian in the history of our sport, male Olympian. And he's had all of his boats have been named Rita. Why?
It's funny you asked me this question the other day and I got it wrong. I also have to big shout out to Hannah, who's the most decorated female sailor till she was overcome by Marriott at the last games. But
Hannah Mills.
Yeah, till Marriott overtook her this games. But basically, his mum went to a church and bought him a good luck badge that he stuck on his buoyancy aid, I want to say, and the name stuck. So I think probably Purse or whatever was giving him a bit of ribbing, a bit of hard time, and he lent into it. But we are talking best part of 40 years ago. So so ever since then, it's always had Rita in the name.
And Rita's in the name because it's Ineos Britannia, Britannia, and there is a Rita in there, the second, third, fourth, and fifth letters. And they often display those letters in red to emphasize that. Let's hear what Ben has to say.
You know, you can see it probably look for people watching on the telly, probably looked like we were doing a pretty bad job, but it's seriously hard out here with these wind.
Okay, again, I don't want to have a copyright strike. They monitor the audio. And Saint Rita, Graham Sweeney. Tell us, Graham Sweeney, who's Saint Rita? She's the patron of what?
I believe she's the patron saint of lost causes.
Well, it's looking better for the Brits now than it has in a long time in terms of the America's Cup, but it's been a bit of a lost cause for the Brits since 1851. Graham, do you think they have a good shot now at getting through to the America's Cup match?
I would like to see them to be a bit more clinical because they're going to be facing something that is. New Zealand doesn't seem to take prisoners. I mean, their performance is without question. We haven't seen much failure. So we are still struggling, and I don't think the foe we will face eventually, if we do, will be something we may not be up for yet. So it's still down to Luna Rossa to beat us. I still think maybe, and I hate to say it, but maybe Luna Rossa is the better boat.
Well, we shall soon see, I suspect, unless the Americans can come back, complete their comeback, and from down 4-2. But we have a terrific comment. The comment of the day from Rick Bannerow, Graham. And Rick is saying patron saint, that is Rita, is the patron saint of parking meters. And that reference, Graham, is to...
Parking meters.
No, come on. Who gets it? One of the Fozy will get it. A clue is the Beatles.
The meter maid.
Lovely Rita, Mita maid. Sing it.
Oh, I can't sing. You invite Debbie to sing. She's a singer.
Oh, my goodness. Who can sing that? Susie Helm, can you sing that for us? Or Sandra Griffin? Lovely Rita, Mita maid.
No. Not in my
Lovely
repertoire.
Rita May.
Maid, yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da. How about you, Graham Sweeney? I was sorry, Gordon. Gordo, can you sing that for us? Do you remember that song? You're too young, Gordon.
If I were to sing, the birds would fall out of the sky.
Yarvahe, he knew it was a Beatles song. Yeah, it was one of my favorite songs. We played the whole, when I was banging away on the guitar and the bass back in high school and college and making beer money. That's how we kept ourselves, talk about staying alive. Not quite, but it was nice to play the odd wedding and play in the bars of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And the Beatles, of course, were popular. We knew all those songs. John Schaefer, another penalty, a red card to us for non-sailing banter. Come on, John, that's why people tune in here, to get away from this nonstop stuff that goes on here. We give the real analysis. Sean Hogan gives real analysis too. He's saying, I still think Fozy flop or touching down is way too polite for such a faux pas. Well, come on, Sean. It's not exactly something that is intentional or that is just simply crotonic behavior. If you sail into an area where there is no wind and happen to, can't keep it on the foils, can't keep it, can't keep it up. He says it should be, the Aussie that he is, it should be plonking. Also, definition for plonk, Aussie slang for alcohol. The relationship, Sean Hogan says, is clear. Ed Worley, who's going to win the next one? Is there going to be a next one, Ed? And if so, who's going to win it?
I haven't seen any weather predictions, but I'm going with American Magic. I got my hat on. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Did you decide if that's a 1992 Team Dennis Conner shirt?
Yes, it is a 92.
And
cubed.
Yeah, they remember the famous three-boat final. That was in 95, not 92.
Yep.
Dennis Conner did one press. I had pushed, and we were working on umpiring in the 80s, and then I was running that event in 92. And pushed umpiring to the fore and got everybody finally, with the help of Gary Jobson and a couple others, to agree, the late, great Cy Gillette, who was one of my umpires, and got the teams to agree to allow umpiring in the defense trials. And there was a famous incident at a weather mark, and that the umpires made arguably the wrong call. Dennis went into the press conference when we had real press conferences in those days, moderated by a neutral personality, by Bruno Trublet. Do you know who's moderating the press conferences here? It's Blair Tuke's brother. Blair Tuke, who's on the ETNZ boat, famously good sailor, and his brother, I think his name is Jesse Tuke. I'm informed by one of our Kiwi Fozy and reliably super smart guys. Blair Tuke's brother, Jesse Tuke, is moderating the press conferences. And, of course, you got Glenn Ashby, another famously good sailor, who's another member of Emirates Team New Zealand. The defender is on the telecast, giving good commentary. So it's in 92, which is when John Schaefer and I first met. Yes, he was the military liaison for that event. And Dennis came into the press conference moderated by a neutral, by Bruno Troublé, and he said, Tom Eamon has my blood on his hands if I lose this. He'll never work in this town again. And, of course, he did lose it to Bill Koch and his team. And Bill Koch went on to win the Cup in 92. And then Dennis Gay continued to say not such nice things about me. I'll never work in this town again, San Diego. And after that match, I'm minding my own business back in Michigan, helping my father with the family business, and we had our kid. Long story short, Dennis called up and said, hey, I need a rules advisor. Get your butt back out here for the 95. I was working, not only back in town, I was working for Dennis. Goodness.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
Pleasure,
Go
I had
ahead.
the pleasure of being able down in San Diego around the bases and walking around the bases. And I had a great pair of binoculars. I was up on Point Loma watching the races take place. So, because I was able to drive down there and watch everything and go around the bases, and that's where I met Dennis one time, walking out of the base camp, and I got to watch Buddy and the guys leave the dock. I'd go down there, then I'd get in my car and drive around and try to watch everybody leave. So it was a great time in San Diego to watch the Cup races.
Yeah, 88 was not such a good event, but 92 and 95 were. And Dennis is a great leader of men and women. I think I'm the only person who's worked for the 3 C's and the D, for Coots, Kayard, Connor, and Dixon. And we'll tell, when I write my book sooner or later, we'll talk about the personalities and the leadership skills of all 4 of those, as we got a pre-start going on here. Bobby Steele, nice to see you on. Bob, who sails with us on It's Okay from time to time and does weather for us at the Governor's Cup down in Newport Beach, as we have 2 minutes now. Is that going to be a penalty to the Italians? They looked like they were in early. Something is weird here. As American Magic coming in on starboard will jibe around behind the Italians. Give us the aerial view, guys. I don't see any penalties. Yarvahe said he'd buy the book. Well, I have to wait till a few people maybe pass on Yar before I write that book. Hello, Andy Armstrong in Hampton, Virginia. If Rick Lyons is still watching, he'll remember as Sunfish North Americans. We sailed there at Virginia Beach, near you, Andy. And we had to get our boats out across the beach and through some stingy fish. A minute to go here. The Americans are going to jibe around ahead and lead the Italians back into the line. Tom Slingsby on the starboard helm for American Magic, and Jimmy Spithill on the starboard helm for Luna Rosa Prada Pirelli. Those two are together here on the back of BMW Oracle Racing in 2013, and now their opponents in 2024 in this must-win race for American Magic, who are down 4-2 to the Italians. Will the Italians get a hook here on American Magic? Will they force them above the line? 20 seconds to go here. No. You're going to have the American Magic team get across the bow just, and going to throw some dirty air now on the Italians. We've seen this movie before, same movie we saw at the start earlier today. 4, 3, 2. And the Americans ahead and slightly to leeward, or slightly ahead and to leeward of the Italians, forcing the Italians to tack off. Hank Stewart predicting an American Magic win by 41 seconds. Hank, if you're right, I'm going to make you my stock advisor from now on. Maureen, I don't know the answer to your question. Didn't port entry have entry? Yes, at 2:10 and starboard at 2 minutes. Yes, that's the program. That's in the rules. As the Americans have the early GPS lead, but let's wait and see what happens at the first cross. I'm not a big believer here in GPS leads. Let's see what happens as each team has to tack and come out of the tack in the lump. and the lightish air. I think there's still 8, 9, maybe 10 knots of breeze here. Anybody seen a wind speed indication of late? Americans have tacked. Hank Stewart says he's retired as a stockbroker. Hello, Rich Fishback. Well, Hank, you'll have to come out of retirement and advise me. And Julia Vedekamp upstairs has a great stock portfolio and advisor. As the American lead has shrunk, at least for the moment. Now the entire shrunk, then come back. Now they're back in the lead. I don't know if you believe that green patch there from Cap Gemini. Got a port starboard coming up, John Schaefer. Yep. But the Americans on port look like they might cross ahead. This is close. The Americans, the giveaway boat on port tack. Yes, they get across. Merritt Palm, another Michigander, now watching from Virginia Beach. Speaking of Virginia Beach, do you have all those stinging jellyfish still off the beach there, Merritt Palm? Keffer? And we can talk about what we did on the beach if you got stung by one of them trying to get your sunfish off the beach. We had 110 boats at that North American Championship. And it was good fun. Several of us got stung every day getting out through the jellyfish. American Magic trailing now, according to the GPS. Looks a little soft over on the upwind right where American Magic is. They're going slight. Came out of that tack, of course. Sea nettles. Use baby oil. We used Adolph's meat tenderizer. The Americans coming across, it's bow to bow. Americans have right of way, so this is a darn close race. Italians will go behind. The Americans are laying the upwind left end of the gate and will have the lead. I don't think you're going to see a hairpin turn again today. As you can see, the Italians almost falling off the foils, just going through the downwash, the dirty air of the Americans. What was that, delta? 7 seconds. If the Americans can win 3 in a row, that's going to rattle the cages at least a bit of the otherwise Iceman, Jimmy Spithill.
Last Wednesday evening at Castle Cove. Although I suspect for many,
John Emmett, somebody's watching a replay of what you said about Castle Cove. Your audio's on, John. Thank you. Great start, John Rogers. Coach John Rogers down in San Diego. Close to leeward is position you hope for every time. Yeah, you want to be wide to windward if you're going to be on the hip. As the Americans now going down leg 2 of 6 with a lead. This is a replay at the top gate. You see them, the Italians, as they went through the bad air of American Magic coming off their rig. There's another view of it. So the Americans with they keep showing the replay. They're showing the diamonds now of the rules to see if there was an infringement. No problem. That's what the umpires use. Meanwhile, back at the races, we got a lead change as Luna Rosa Prada Pirelli on starboard have crossed ahead of the Americans. Mark Holland, are you keeping track of lead changes? Ed Worley, your team has fallen astern to a boat which has heretofore been pretty quick downhill, LRPP. Ed, what are you thinking is going on here on your American Magic boat?
I agree with John. They're sailing from puff to puff. And I think whatever side of the course, I think it's going to stay close at the marks. I think it's still a pretty darn close race.
It is great, tricky conditions, as we heard Glenn Ashby say on the commentary. There is some pressure indicated over here on the right, if you believe, again, Cap Gemini. The Americans jibing when it got really light. Last time we saw the tack from the Brits. Mark Holland, no, that's too much to handle for a live race. And here comes another, at least theoretical lead change, as maybe the upwind left is soft or softer. The Americans crossing ahead. Americans also having the right of way. They're the starboard tack boat. Also look like they're laying the gate, whereas the Italians may not be quite laying the gate. Close, probably for both of them. Probably they'll both soak down and lay it. Jimmy just took a slurp of Red Bull. It's giving him wings. Ted Ryman has said, well, not for long it didn't give him wings, because the Americans are going to round the downwind right or upwind left end of the gate with the lead. We've had, what, 3 lead changes from memory? And LRPP now headed for the upwind right. John Emmett, do you like the right? Do you think the east or the south side of the course, or the south side of this easterly course axis, is the better, puffier, windier side?
Oh, it's funny, when you're racing, you always want to have that extra meter or meters. But I think if the US was just slightly further ahead and could have jibed, it'll be a different race now. Italy sailing into the pressure, they're going to tack, and they're going to have a small hop and then into the next pressure. And I think they're gone. So that split at the bottom was, whichever way you look at it, very good for Italy, very bad for the US. So I think in about 3 minutes' time, US will be 200 meters plus behind. But we shall see, because it's a really dynamic race course. And I don't think it's ever over until it's over.
Yeah, the Americans splashed down there for a sec, I think. Jeff Kalusian is reminding us. And here is another lead change as the Italians are crossing ahead.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, I just think the Americans are now out of phase, and it's really hard for them to do anything about that now. So I said I expect it to climb to 200 meters, because it's not only your position now, it's how you're set for the gate. And if you look at the tack we've just seen, even if they're in lighter air, basically Italy's directly to windward.
Yeah,
it's just a case of, do they fall off their foils?
Sadly for American Magic boosters, John Schaefer agrees with you. Rhode Island Rover saying, yeah, this is nerve-wracking. Yeah, it is. And John Schaefer, Captain Jack, agreeing with you that now the Italians will be able to cover them and will be sailing at least upwind into the puffs sooner. We'll see here. We've seen lead changes, and quite a number of lead changes in this race. I think it's 3, possibly 4, as LRPP now will tack and head to the top gate. And their lead is shrinking steadily, as there may be more pressure at the moment on the upwind left. Now, of course, they're just coming out of that tack. The Americans still have to tack. And you see that green patch over there, if you believe that. And the Americans, if so, John Emmett, what do you think of this?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to multitask. But yeah, no, I think that was a race-winning move by the Americans. And I can't believe the Italians allowed that gauge. But, it's easy sat here making these decisions. But yeah, no, I think race-winning move by my Americans. And the strange thing was the Italians had it in control. So they're going to really regret that. But it means maybe we have some racing tomorrow.
Well, here is this will get you puckered up. If you're the Americans, is the port tack boat, the giveaway boat crossing ahead just. I see no protests from the Italians, at least no indication on the screen. So the Americans back in the lead. Mark Holland, woo-hoo! And I think I hear a commentary from Tommy Slingsby. Tom saying a little pressure drop on the right. Okay, this will be an interesting pass through the gate at the top of leg 3. This is close. It's tight. The Americans need to win or they're out. It's 4-2. And the Americans now on starboard tack. Both teams struggling to stay on the foils. I wish we'd see another wind indication. I don't think the Italians can get ahead. Now, will the Italians tack ahead into leeward? I don't think so, but they're going to try to cross. Oh, they are going to tack ahead to leeward. The Americans are going to luff up and protest. Are they? Or they're just going to tack. No protest indications from either boat. So the Americans tack. Jimmy does a hairpin turn. And we'll see which side of the track has more pressure, as it's neck and neck. And I don't know whether you'd call that a lead change or not, but it was nearly so, nearly back to the Italians. Probably they got through around and through the gate first, so I didn't see the delta mark. Holland, did you see that? What they actually called it going through the gate?
8 seconds.
8 seconds. Thanks, Gordon. 8 seconds to the Italians?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, we've got you, Gordon. What's your latest thinking?
It's damn tight, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
great. It's this is what it's a super race, and
Come on, Gordon. Are the Italians going to?
I can't call it.
Are the Italians going to get across here? We got a port starboard. The Americans on starboard with right of way, and the Italians are easily across.
Italians will get in front.
Yeah. Now, is this race over, John Emmett? Uh-oh. Why'd they crash down? What happened on LRPP?
I don't know what happened there.
Their mainsail's coming down or something.
I don't know what happened there. I mean, I was about to say, I don't know why Italy didn't jibe directly on US, blocking their path to that next band of pressure. But obviously something went on, and hopefully they're going to show us in replay. But I don't like it when competitions are decided by gear failure.
So that is a huge structural failure there for the Italians.
Structural failure, yeah. It looked to me like something went wrong with their main. Look, something went wrong. Oh, look at that mechanism in the back. The Traveler looks like it has come apart.
Did somebody step on it?
Well, I don't think so. They were all in their foxholes. Ed Worley, you have an idea what's going on here?
They are out of this race and have handed the race win to American Magic.
Ed Worley's astonished. Is Ed there?
Looks like the boom is broken. Look at it.
You think the
Remember
boom?
the boom's underneath the deck, so they have to. Because look at the main sheet track. Look at that.
Well, they're happy at the base at American Magic. You hate to wish any team bad luck or even congratulate another team on another team's bad luck, but or maybe it's not bad luck. Maybe somebody screwed up on the shore team or on the build team, but sadly, it looks like they are out of this race. That is LRPP.
And they have a penalty, too.
Well, the penalty is, who knows what that's all about.
Well, remember in '83 when it was breakdowns, they decided to cup. When Liberty had the jumper cylinder fail on the boat, on the 12, and they lost the race to Australia, too.
Yes, indeed.
When they were,
Well,
so
I don't know what
it's all
this...
about equipment.
Well, Graham Sweeney, any idea what's going on here? Grambo, are you there with it? Oh, he's left his chair. We can see he's got his Scottish pillow there. Susie Helm, calling Susie Helm. You must be happy as hell right now.
Here I am, and as somebody said, I hate to see it due to equipment failure, but I'll take it, and it's like I'll see you all again tomorrow.
It would appear so.
They will race again tomorrow?
We think so.
Okay.
Yeah, you see the forestay went slack as I saw the mane. It looked to me like the mane in the back was the first thing I noticed that went soft. The leech, meaning the trailing edge of the mane. There it is.
Apologize for the colourful language, but you can imagine the shock going through.
Yeah, the industrial language. Rick Lyons reminds me that it was Adolph's meat tenderizer that was the jellyfish cure. You could also use human urine, right, Rick? As we're talking, I mean, we got to stay focused on the racing, or I'll get a comment from John Schaefer saying, "Oh, that's not good, Derek Riddle." No, it's not. Traveler track broke, John Spangos is thinking. Oh, man. Yeah, you wouldn't wish this on anybody. I agree with Susie Helm and all the rest of you. Graham Sweeney, you're back in the picture now. What the hell has just happened?
What did I miss? I just had to go to an alarm in the greenhouse because there was the extractor wasn't working, and it's got to 37 degrees in there. We've got sunshine.
37 centigrade or Fahrenheit?
Degrees centigrade.
Oh my God, it's hot there. You got Barcelona conditions there.
Yeah. Not good for tomatoes though.
Well,
so what happened?
Well, what happened is their Traveler broke. The YouTube is saying, Alan Long is saying that Traveler and hydraulics broke. There is a good close-up picture. And when I was watching, it looked to me, I thought maybe their rig is broken, their mast is breaking, because I saw the leech of the main go soft and thought maybe the rig was way back, but no, it was the Traveler. And they've got some kind of an under-the-deck boom system that actually does more than just the Traveler across the back of the deck, helping to bring the main in and out. They've got some mechanism underneath. Can LRPP call for a lay day? No, they cannot, Ed Worley. The days of call lay days are long behind, actually not that long behind us, but they're behind us. Yeah, there's no more racing. They are lucky, Matthias Collins, that there's no more racing today, because American Magic, whom we see here in the shot, are going to win again by over 3 kilometers. Okay, that's hardly meaningful. But some very common, inexpensive parts, Sean Hogan, who's still awake in Sydney. Oh, I don't know, in Melbourne, I think he is. And Jimmy confirmed, pulled the Traveler off the deck. It's an easy fix. They are glued on. John Schaefer just saying. That's what Jimmy apparently said on the commentary. Jimmy Spedhill gave good responses, so we're not listening to the audio. Thank you to all of you whom are. Lucky the rig didn't snap. Well, it looks like American Magic lives another day.
Signing off. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. There. Oh, we actually get to see you, Susie.
Just a little.
Thank you very much. Did you go to hair and makeup in the meantime? I mean, that's what I do. I get here in the studio and I don't dare appear on screen until we've gone to hair and makeup.
Yeah, hopefully they do a better job than this. But anyway, see you tomorrow.
You look great. Thank you for coming on.
Yep.
Jeff Kalustian say, don't just stand there. Go get some glue. Yeah, rig failure would have been very bothersome with the time available. American Magic on the final leg going downhill now. So there is another leg. And yes, they need to complete the course unless the other team gets disqualified. Yes, John. Oh, speaking of captains, he is a 777 pilot for United and captains, flies in the left seat. Jonathan Frank, our regular Fozy. Once again, this proves just how fragile these boats are. Jim Beam, thank you for joining us. It does look like we're about to wrap this one up. The Americans having a better day than the youth team did. The youth team had a DSQ and a DNS. And Marco Gradoni from Italy in the A group now has 3 wins and a second. It looks like he will go on to win the A group, probably. He's got a lot more experience on those AC40s than any of the others do, including H. Here's a No, that's not a replay. It's the Italians dead in the water, or nearly so, and the Americans passing by. At least the TV guys get to have them both in the shot. There'll be a picture that we'll see over and over and over again. They're happy on Coach Tom Burnham and T. Hutch are very happy over there on the boat. What was the wind speed? What was the wind speed, gang? 10 knots, give or take? This has got to pucker up the Italians, Ed Worley. This has got to put the Italians on edge.
Yep.
And again, Jimmy Spithill, who was at the other end of the big comeback here in 2013, Ed, he's now got that in the back of his mind, and the whole team does, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you give momentum, and momentum has a psychological advantage, and American Magic is doing a great job, and they're gonna have a lot more confidence now.
Gordon, what's your latest thinking?
Well, I agree with Ed. I thought that was an amazingly close race. Yeah, I mean, it's great racing, and it's a shame to see gear failure, but it all adds to the intrigue and mystique, and it gives certain people, certain journalists, actually something proper to write about instead of silly stories about Brad Butterworth.
Well, you're absolutely right, I think. All of you are, as usual, or usually are. I take issue with you sometimes, but there's Ed with his American flag. He's happy. Graham Sweeney, are you happy as well?
Bravo, USA, bravo.
Well, you're still hoping for an Ineos Britannia and New York American Magic finale here in the Louis Vuitton Cup, aren't you?
I would love to see it. Yes, I really would.
Hank Stewart is reminding us, good comment here from Hank, that LRPP's gear failure in the rounds robin, software failure maybe. Well, no, it was their starboard foil arm, wasn't it? Took them out of the top spot in the semis, and now they've just had another one. I don't know what this is all about. We'll find out, no doubt. Keep an eye on Richard Gladwell, who's no doubt in Auckland, where it is, 2:30 in the morning, 2:35, and he is already, fingers are flying, getting ready for his article. He is still coming up with the best articles. Matt Sheehan's YouTube channel, Planet Sail, is pretty good as well, but when Richard Gladwell, he'll send me the link to his article for today before he finally tumbles into bed and sleeps till noon his time. Here is the replay of the start, and I will put his article up immediately on my personal Facebook page, and I'll also put it over on the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page. But his writing is just superb, sublime, superb, whatever you want to call it. Lots of lead changes here. What do we count? I think 4. And John Emmett, sum it all up for us, if you would, please, Coach Emmett.
Well, I never like to see races won or lost by gear failure, but I do always like to watch close racing. I feel pretty sorry for the Italians because I did think they were looking like they were going to get that one. But from a personal and selfish note, looking forward to watching more racing tomorrow.
Okay, well, staying alive, NIAM and ARBR, meaning New York, yeah, they're 4-3 here now. The ARBR are not alive. They have lost in 5-2. So the Brits, bravo Zulu to the Brits who have won that semifinal. They get a bit of a break here, maybe also a chance to do some tuning up. And Jonathan Frank is signing off the good ship Queen Elizabeth somewhere off the coast of Canada. He's on a cruise ship. Look at that. A good day sailing today. Ted Ryman is sailing down to Cape Town. Well done to American Magic, who've won 2, and GBR. So, yeah, that gets us to the finish line. I think I'll sign us off here. And, Ed Worley, you better wear that hat tomorrow. Ed?
Yep, you got that right. American Magic hat's not coming off now, boy.
You better wear it. You better wear it all day today and to bed whenever you get some sleep.
Yep.
And into tomorrow. Don't change your underwear either.
No. Going to wear my Stars and Stripes shirt and American Magic hat. That's what we got to do.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. I'm going to get us off the air here, go back to the slides, and say that we are well and truly to the finish line here for this watch party number. I don't know what it is. We've done, 12 of these or so. Fog Machine, thank you. He's going back to the pillow. It's only 7:40. 7:40. I guess you can go back to bed. Thank you all for joining us. That's the finish line of this watch party. Please like, follow, and share, as Julia likes to remind you. And give us any other comments if you're watching this in replay on Facebook. The YouTube replays are not necessarily lasting a long time because there are some issues with copyright over there, but on Facebook they're up. All of these watch parties are up on both my personal Facebook page and also on our Sailing Illustrated Facebook page. Bob Piste, Philip Lindemann, Thierry de Jong, thank you to all of you, Don Lunabos. So appreciate all of you coming on. And we especially appreciate those of you who are patrons who go on patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated and give us $1 or $2 or $5 a month. Or those of you who want to do something more direct, ping me and I'll send you the address here at the Beach Street Yacht Club in the Marina District in San Francisco. Mary Jude Samansky in Philadelphia, thanks for you coming on again today. Daniel Butler, great watch party. Let's go USA. Andy Cox and Mark Holland, thank you indeed. He's going to take a nap as well. Spencer Hamilton Barnes Kunith, there's a great name. Thank you all. Just a programming note on our upcoming schedule. I guess there's going to be racing tomorrow. This series is still alive. Now, there's a possibility that they'll do something different. I will find out and post it on my Facebook page and on the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page. You probably all find out before I do. Maybe a Thursday watch party, maybe not, but presumably so. Presumably at 0500, which is 1400 local in Barcelona. Will there be a watch party on Friday? Possibly. We shall see, and if so, we will not do a regular show on Friday. It's too much to do the watch parties to try to prepare a show and go live in our regular shows, which are Tuesdays and Fridays at 1300. So if we have a watch party Friday morning, no regular show. But if this is over one way or the other for the Americans or the Italians, then we'll do our regular show Friday. Okay, everybody, thanks again. Thanks to our Zoomers who like to give us a wave. To all of you, we appreciate very much your expertise. And I guess, John Emmett, are you hearing there's definitely racing tomorrow, John? He's nodding his head yes. Okay, so it looks like there is racing tomorrow, in which case we'll be back here at 0500 for another watch party. Have a great rest of your Wednesday or Thursday if you're down under. In the meantime, thanks for watching. And, of course, sail fast. Sail safe and have fun. Ciao for now.